Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the race reaction for the 2026 British Grand Prix. Stuart's dancing away there. He's having the time of his life. All part of the fun, I suppose, the countdown. But I hope you're all well. Hope you enjoyed that one. Mixed emotions for me. I'll do some shout-outs in chat in just a moment to get some hellos in there. But we'll start by saying a very good afternoon to Stuart. How are you doing, Stuart? Did you enjoy that?
Well, that whole cavalcade of emotions there that I went through, it just twist after twist after twist at the end. A bit of a bitter pill to swallow at the end, I'd say, but lots to talk about. A well-deserved winner. Yeah, I'm still recovering, honestly.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I'm obviously delighted for Charles Leclerc and another Ferrari win. I think not just even on a human level, forgetting the Ferrari bias, I think the fact that he's had such a rough few races to get that win here, a legitimate win on pure pace. He deserves the win, but maybe things would have been different if Antonelli hadn't have suffered, but we'll get to that in a minute. But also, I feel like the race up to all the chaos wasn't the best. I wouldn't say it was bad, but I don't think it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then everything kicked off, and then race control said, haha, you're going to get a one-lap shootout. Only joking, which really ruined everything. So it kind of affected my mood, I suppose, is my point there. But yeah, not a great finish. We will get onto that in just a moment. But yeah, there is a poll in the chat for anyone who wants to vote at the minute. Good is lead. Well, no, tied. Good and okay, 31%. What did you click on, Stuart? I would have given that pre-drama towards the end okay, and maybe bump it up a little bit with what happened later on.
I shift my point where I change. Pre halfway point maybe. I would have given it okay, and then it became good. It was kind of very steady in that kind of first stint. But after the first stint, after the pit stops, people got a little bit mixed up. There was some intrigue going on. There were people trying to catch up with other people, and then obviously chaos happened. Things happened with Antonelli. There was a lot of racing between the Russell Hamilton Verstappen thing was really exciting. There was a lot going on after that, but it took a bit of time to get to that point. So I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it even if Verstappen hadn't crashed at the end and we had all this kind of madness happening. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was quite a strange race for the stewards as well, just generally. There seemed to be some, at one stage we got a virtual safety car for an umbrella, which was very brief. It wasn't my brolly that I lost in 2016, by the way. I did check. But it's had that moment. Then we had Lance Stroll, we'll get to him shortly, getting 472 hours worth of penalties for track limits. It's just a few strange things today, but I guess that's the beauty of F1. But I'll do some shout outs in chat. Say hello to everybody. Sighted Canvas says it wasn't okay, it was just K. There you go. Sighted Canvas not impressed. Quite a few in chat not impressed actually, but we'll do some shout outs, then we'll do the run through. Shout out sounds a bit much for a 40-year-old, I suppose. Say hello to people in chat, really. But Navi Pants says that, hi, I'm here for the Ruby emotional support group. Yeah. Jay Webb says, absolute disgrace of an ending. Everyone should be voting bad. Completely tarnished the race. Formula Sean said, boo. Professional Moron said, it's Canada 99 all over again. Safety car wins. Well done to Charles, though. Fab drive. Kevin says, lol, good move pitting Lewis Ferrari. We'll go to people who haven't shouted that yet. Kaori says is questioning why Lewis got a second penalty. Why Lewis might get a second penalty. We'll get onto that shortly. Thank you very much to Yori for your super chat. Really appreciate your support as always. Says great race with a last lap. Oh, change of plans. Yeah, that's how it felt, didn't it? Nick says, shame we didn't get the last lap, but very pleased for Charles. Kimi penalty is just stupid. Yes. But they'll probably give him one for driving a car in unsafe condition instead to save face. There's a lot of skepticism in chat this afternoon. I've said hi to Sighted Canvas, but he did say, what the hell was that finished? Punkate Lena says, please tell me, have the great Oracle of Jonty with us today. Wow, Stuart. Just leave now. I'm sure that's not what Lena means. I think more because Jonty would like to say a few things on safety, I'm sure. But hey, Lena.
Always pleased to have Jonty.
Yes. Red Raven says, I'm left feeling, oh, this happened. Luke says, good race, rubbish ending, F the FIA. Neelish says, without the safety car, Kimi could have gotten a point. He started pulling away from Colapinto on his second lap. Again, we'll get to that shortly. John T is in chat, so that'll cheer Lena up, I'm sure. Latok says, FIA robbed us of an epic last lap. Chamber said, did anyone see what happened to Piastri at the start? No. Spoiler alert for the notes later, Stuart. MSC Byler says, hi, Sean and all. I haven't seen the race yet. Can you do no spoilers, please? I'll try my best. A race happened. There you go, just for you, Bylas. A few more then. Double P1 Mike says, overall good race. Missed out on a banger ending. Seems like the rules around unlapping cars are contentious for some weird reason. We'll get to that because I've got a slightly tongue-in-cheek comment to make. Ash says, hi guys. Hi Ash. Pascal says, hello Sean and chat, how is everyone doing? Yes, 4 points for Audi. Faultless drive by Gabriel. I am very, very happy, and no offense to anyone, don't shout out. I'll need to get through these now because otherwise we'll never get the the stream done. Vettel Hamilton says, Max Verstappen needs to leave Red Bull. He has been crashing a lot lately. One more. I'm going to scroll down at random. Kira says, just listening to Brundle about the safety car. That's what I want to talk about in a bit, yes. Thank you for having shouted you out, and hello to you, by the way. Thanks for joining us. Please do drop a like on the stream and subscribe if you're new. But let's get on with the rundown. Starting with race winner, Charles Leclerc, finally. I mean, really, to be honest, took the lead off the line, didn't he? And then kind of disappeared, and it was very comfortable in the early stages and stayed relatively comfortable after the stops, but then Kimi Antonelli started to close in and it looked pretty inevitable that he was going to end up P2, but actually was never threatened after that because of course Antonelli had his problems and the safety car came out late on. So I think a lot of people will look at Leclerc's win and say, oh well, the safety car helped him at the end, but I don't think that's necessarily fair. Antonelli's issues probably helped him, but actually his drive was pretty faultless. In fact, it was faultless, and I think he thoroughly deserves the win. So I'm pretty happy with that, Stuart, I've got to say, as a Ferrari fan.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you. Thoroughly deserves the win. I was sort of saying yesterday, in the spirit of competition, I mean, I say this a lot on this stream, just that I like people who are running away with things to be challenged. So yesterday I said I would have preferred qualifying if the Ferraris had managed to secure the front row and just at least give Antonelli a bit of a challenge at the start, because I kind of expected we'd get a usual run of form where after the Ferraris did in fact take 1-2 before the first corner, or by the first corner, I expected they didn't take 1 and 2, did they? They did take 1 and 2. Sorry, so much has happened. I'm having to replay the whole race. Anyway, when Ferrari got the lead at the start, I was like, okay, this is good. We're at least going to get something interesting happening for the first 10, 15 laps before Antonelli inevitably, gets them back again and status quo is restored. But no, Leclerc held it. Antonelli got bothered in his own fights with Hamilton. And once he did get clear of Hamilton, the gap stayed fairly steady, 4 or 5 seconds, and maybe he was just preserving things and trying to lengthen his stint a little bit, so not pushing. But nonetheless, Leclerc had pace, and we'll never know what will happen in the second stint. Antonelli on the offset tyres catching Leclerc, but we knew Antonelli was struggling to actually pass with ease, so maybe Leclerc could have given him a bit of the old defensive. We don't know, but motor racing requires the car to finish the race and be intact. And Antonelli and Mercedes didn't manage that for one way or another. That's the way it goes. And a very good win from Leclerc. And he needed it as well. Like he needed just a reminder that he could do it, and wins are there for the taking. And I think hopefully this will give him a boost going forwards.
Yeah, especially given Lewis Hamilton's form of late. It's got to be quite disheartening to see your teammate picking up podiums and then winning in Barcelona, and you're there struggling for tail end points or even to get the car to the end. So a big boost for him, and I'm really happy for him. And I think he did drive a faultless race. The only thing he wasn't, I guess the only team radio thing, as we're talking about Ferrari, was that he wanted to pit under the Hülkenberg VSC, but they said no. And I think that was probably the right call, because his pace was still okay at that point, and he would have fallen behind Antonelli. But I sort of agree with what Crofty and Martin Brundle were saying, in that he was going to probably, based on Antonelli's pace, probably end up P2 anyway, so was it worth just putting some fresh tyres on to take the fight to Antonelli? Obviously, as it turns out, that was all irrelevant, but at that point in time I thought probably the right call not to, but I can see why there might be an argument for some fresh tyres if Antonelli has got that pace, because his Kimi's tyres were 10 laps younger, I think, than Charles, so a fresh set of tyres under the VSC, lose a bit less time, try and chase Kimi down, might have given him a better chance for the win, but as it turned out, Kimi's race just fell apart, bless him. But yeah, great stuff from Charles. Do you agree with the VSC not pitting, the Ferrari's call there?
Yeah, I mean, it would have dropped him down to second place, and then he would have had tyres that were only 3 laps younger, so not enough of an offset to kind of, for them to say, yeah, okay, you can go and fight. You're going to have much better tires and be able to take it back. I don't think you could have risked that. Having track position today, I think, was really important because overtaking wasn't that easy. We saw a lot of good battling, but good battling that didn't necessarily result in overtakes and pulling away. We saw battling that sort of had a bit of give and take and a lot of struggle. So even though that Mercedes probably was the fastest there today, I'd say definitely was the fastest car, especially with Antonelli. Nothing is guaranteed other than having track position.
It's interesting though, isn't it, actually, because for those who enjoy sort of the yo-yo aspect of the racing we have this year, the sprint was far better. We saw a lot more passing in the sprint than we saw today, or it felt like that anyway. So I don't know if that's fuel levels that have contributed to that, or having to do some tyre management, because it is quite a tough track on tyres, Silverstone, so a one-stopper always sounds like it's going to be a bit crazy, but it usually works out that way, apart from Alex Albon, who I think pitted 104 times today. So but yeah, I think not as much yo-yoing as we saw in the sprint, or as I expected, so that was a bit surprising today. But either way, Charles, and we'll talk about race control now while we're talking about Charles Leclerc, because he was first over the line, of course, so we may as well do it now. But I think I don't know if we ever got any confirmation or have had any confirmation yet about why the safety car was redeployed, but I think a lot of the frustration from people, and maybe this is just me feeling this, I don't know, but I think a lot of the frustration over the fact we didn't get the one-lap shootout would be less vocal, I suppose, had we not been almost promised one halfway around that lap. I think if they just not put safety car ending up, I think people would have gone, oh well, never mind, these things happen. But the fact you sat there and you're staring at the screen, it goes safety car ending, and then you go, oh my god, the heart rate comes up, you get excited, like, here we go again, this is going to be epic, it's going to be crazy, anyone could win this, top 4 could get together, we might see Hadjar win it, and then suddenly the safety car, you sort of look at the TV going, why is he coming round? Is it Vale and Club? So I think that would have, had that they not put the safety car back out, I think people would have been less angry. But I think it's always disappointing when a race finishes behind a safety car, for me. Yeah, I will just say I did. I know I messaged you this, Stuart, and you were watching Channel 4, so you didn't hear it, but I really did quite enjoy the irony of Crofty and Martin Brundle and Ted sort of talking about, how can we do this differently with a safety car? How can we drop the lap cars to the back, or not let the lap cars overtake, or just let some through? And talking about changing precedent and the rules. I did quite enjoy the irony of that. I have to say, tongue in cheek, of course, but yeah.
Yes, I didn't listen to any of that. I'm going to rewatch it with Sky at a later date, because I quite like seeing two sides of commentary. I mean, I can explain what happened, and I think people's frustration might be at slightly the wrong thing in terms of what they think is to blame. I still think the race control made a mistake, but I think it's a different mistake than people made. So I'm 99% sure that they said it was coming in this lap in error, because the rules didn't allow them that leeway, because after you bring in the after you display the message lap cars may now overtake, you then have to have another lap. This is the sort of thing that came into play in Abu Dhabi 21 that we discussed ad nauseum, and then you can bring the safety car in. So I think they pressed the button and then realized that they can't do that, and then undid it again. So if you look at the official race control messages, you'll see race control says safety car in this lap, and then 8 seconds later it says safety car deployed. That wasn't reflected in the TV graphics, which held safety car in this lap for a very long time, and thus set us all up for a grandstand finish, which we should have got. So in terms of how they ran the race, the FIA did what they should have done by the rules. and the safety car didn't pull away because it wasn't told to. What should have happened is, and I don't know what was discussed on Sky, but on the F1 TV or Channel 4 broadcast, it was reminded us that the teams and the FIA have agreed that they would prefer to have a racing finish. So if they don't think they can get safety cars finished in time, they will stop the race and then do a restart. That's sort of the agreed etiquette as how to finish the race. And I think what the FIA, I think they misjudged whether they could get the race started again. I think once it was, lap 48, 4 laps to go, I think they should have just said, I don't think we can get this restarted. Stop the race. We'll do a standing start once we've cleared Verstappen out of the way. I think that's what should have happened. And they misjudged the amount of laps they had to do it. So that's, I think, the way it all played out. Hitting the button, whether they, nudged it with their elbow or pressed it and then realized they shouldn't have pressed it, the safety car in this lap button, is the mistake they made. And it kind of G'd us all up for we all expected to have a really exciting finish. And that was not to be. So, yeah, a shame. It probably would have been better if we'd never got that message. So at least we knew we were going to be disappointed. Now we sort of got excited and then disappointed, which is much worse. I mean, ideally we would have got stopped on the red flags, but then everyone would have been able to change their tires and that would have taken the wind out of it in a slightly different way, but at least we would have had a race. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, that pretty much aligns with what chat's saying. Keys Cruitt, thank you very much, mate. It says the FIA has just confirmed on Sky that it was due to the requirement of a lap of safety car after the unlapping. The safety car in message was due to a software malfunction. I'm going to take the... because I'm a very skeptical person, I know. But I'm going to take the software malfunction with a pinch of salt and believe what Stuart said there about them probably catching it with their elbow, because this is the FIA. If anyone's going to mess it up, it's them. So it could be... Yeah, so that's why... it happened. So what Stuart said there, plus the extra context there. So thank you very much to everyone in chat for letting us know. But it's... I mean, look... I'll say it. I feel like I'm always saying this with these safety car restart conversations. I'm with Martin Brundle. I don't understand. And maybe, Stuart, you might know there might be a really important, computer sensor issue as to why you can't. But I don't understand why you can't just drop the lap runners to the back of the field or even tell them to go through the pit lane at the restart. Maybe it's something to do with transponders or lap counts. I don't know. But it feels crazy to me that we have to let the lap runners through anyway, but then you have to let them finish a lap before you can bring the safety car in. And it just feels like the process could be so much shorter. I mean, you don't want to bring in regulations for specifically the end of a race, but when you get this situation and you've only got 4 laps to go, having to give up 2 of those for an unlapping and to give the safety car another lap just seems ridiculous. But I'm sure there's probably a very, very good reason other than someone just felt like making that rule up. But it just... I feel like there could be a better way, but I'm also not really sure we need to necessarily move all the lap cars out of the way. They can get out of the way when the race restarts, but I know a lot of people disagree with that.
It is a tricky one, and I believe the reason that rule's in place is because, well, there's a couple of things in play. A lot of the rules that govern how the race is run make sure that all the cars are running the correct number of laps. And obviously, if you drop the lapped cars behind everyone else, then you're basically just demoting them, kind of, in a weird way, rather than kind of putting them in the right position. I can kind of see the argument for it in a way, because in theory, they'd all be passed anyway. They're not interacting with the cars around them. But you are essentially dropping them a lap. Is it kind of arbitrarily? It is a tricky... I totally see the argument the other way. Like whichever way you push the lap cars around, you're doing a sort of arbitrary thing. Yeah, I guess.
And you still have to wait either way, don't you, as well? So
yeah, although it is obviously quicker to just push them to the back of the train, assuming the train is all gathered. It took a long time to gather the train. Actually, I was watching them try and all catch up with the safety car. It took about 3 laps to actually get them all lined up behind it. It is a tricky one. I don't have a good reason other than I suspect the FIA think it is unfair to kind of push them down a lap. for no particular reason. But yeah, I mean, maybe we just lead them in the way and cause problems in a slightly different way. I don't know. Yeah, tricky, but those are the rules, and we all know what the rules are, and we have to race those rules as they are right now.
Yeah, and I will say, important. I mean, Kaori said the same in chat, that it's down to lap count, and that's been the FIA's argument for years. So there's obviously something to do with the software there, but it's something that we're discussing now, but we probably won't discuss again for another 3 years. These don't happen very often. So middle of the race, when they're letting lap cars overtake, not really a problem. But when you've got later in the race, it's why I like maybe elegance is the wrong word, but I think the red flag solution is the better one, and maybe that needs to be pushed even further into the regulations, and perhaps if we get a safety car at any point in the last 10 laps, the race is red flagged and we go again, or something like that. But yeah, that's probably the most elegant solution. So let me know in chat. As always, we're going to run through the top 3 teams, which are Ferrari, Mercedes and McLaren. Then I'll come to you in chat for some words on those and all of that we've just discussed. Then we'll do the point scorers, then we'll do the rest of the field. So we'll roll on. But well done, Charles Leclerc was the the summary of all that section, and boo for the ending, but these things happen, I suppose. Lewis Hamilton P3. Messy race in some areas, isn't it? Investigated for a false start, and that was absolutely what happened. It's I mean, false start is probably the wrong word, but he moves in his pit box. He's not moving when the lights go out, so I would say that's moving in your pit box rather than a false start, but the regulations will dictate what that's called, of course. It's a slam dunk. Even he said afterwards, he made a mistake with the false start. These things happen, but that was a shame. But he was looking on for P2 after all of that with Kimi Antonelli, which we'll talk about shortly. And then Ferrari decided to pit him under the late safety car, which says to me, Stuart, that actually the teams, the FIA, everybody seemed to think that Red Bull would have been cleared much more swiftly than it was. But that is a long gravel trap, a big gravel trap, and it's not easy to recover cars from there. So I think had Ferrari suspected that would have taken that long, they would not have pitted Lewis Hamilton, or I'd like to think they wouldn't, but again, this is Ferrari we're talking about, so it's just a shame for Hamilton, because I think he drove really well today. Was unfortunate with the false start, of course he was, but yeah, just the wrong call in the end by Ferrari. But then at the same time, looking at it from the other side, like we like to do on this channel, if he puts the soft tyres on or something and a safety car comes in and he wins it, then Ferrari look like heroes. So it was one of those that could have gone either way, I suppose. Just a shame they didn't get the 1-2, because that would have been the icing on the cake for me today.
Yeah, I was thinking about you with like 5 laps to go, being like, "Wow, this is just that you've been waiting for. This is what all the pain's been about." But yeah, shame about that. I don't know how you feel about that decision to do to pit Hamilton. Leclerc seemed more obvious because he had such a huge gap. Because Hamilton was on the bubble with Russell, I feel like that was a less obvious thing to do, especially when the lap count is so tight with the safety car. This, what happened here was a possibility, and they got, caught out by it. I think the threat from Russell behind was not as strong to me as the risk of just ending up third because the safety car takes them round for the rest of the race. I don't know. I think it was too big a risk, and it's easy to say in hindsight. It just felt that way. But Hamilton got involved in some really good fights. I was really enjoying that sort of 3-way scrap with. I mean, I guess we'll get to Russell, but with Russell and Verstappen, and then fighting with Verstappen alone. That was a lot of fun. He's had a good weekend all round. I think he probably knows it could have been better. Couple of errors. I think every 10 years, Hamilton does something silly at the start, and they're going to have to put another little flap over one of the buttons on the steering wheel to stop him pressing it, like they did after Baku when he held down the magic button by accident. But I think Hamilton will come away from this weekend feeling pretty good about where they are, because they had that win in Spain, and then they had a really tricky Austria, and I think that made them question exactly where they are in things, and actually maybe they are a lot closer to Mercedes than we thought they are.
They seem to have matching pace today, didn't they, for chunks of the race at least? So that's a positive. It felt more like Barcelona Ferrari than Austria Ferrari. It is important to note, though, it could yet get worse.
Oh yeah,
Lewis Hamilton is being investigated for a yellow flag infringement. Now, I caught Sky just before going live. Apparently Kimi Antonelli had been on the radio saying he's overtaking everybody, referring to Hamilton, so that will be investigated. I don't know what truth there is in that. That's sometimes you have to take what Sky say with a pinch of salt, but they don't generally report on something like that as make things up, do they, for that sort of thing. So if he were to get a penalty for a yellow flag infringement, that tends to be quite a big penalty. It could and probably will drop him out of the points. So it depends on what the penalty is. If it's anything like 10 seconds, I don't know what they are for yellow flag infringements. I feel like they are 10 seconds as standard, but it might be a drive-through. I don't know. So apparently Sky have just reviewed the yellow flag incident. I've not got it on, unfortunately, so I haven't got it. But yeah, let me know. So Lewis didn't lift through the Hulk. I'm guessing that's the Hulkenberg yellow flag area, says Fudd. So that's... Yeah, I'm looking at chat, Stuart, because I've got a few people just saying a few things on there about what was happening. So Kevin says the Lewis issue with the yellow flags for Hulkenberg's car. There were warnings on the steering wheel, but nothing around the track. Lewis went flat out and Max behind him lifted a bit. So not sure what has happened there, but he is under investigation.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? I know that flags, physical wavy flags, take precedent over anything else, like light, the flag lights and steering wheel. But I don't know what takes precedent if there's no flags, but your steering wheel is telling you there is yellow. So I don't know how that would work. I didn't realize it was for Hulkenberg, to be honest, because I feel like we got that message through after the Verstappen crash. So I'd assumed it had been for that. And I wondered if it was because sometimes you get yellow flag steward messages come up and all that's happened is the yellow flag has sort of come on marginally before they went into that zone, and and that's kind of ruled out because you had no time to react to it. So yeah, interesting. I'd like to see eventually that footage and see how that pans out.
Yeah, Fudd again has said in chat, the yellow occurred whilst he was in the zone. His wheel was marked yellow and he passed the green, so he should have known it was a yellow. So let's see what they decide there. And yes, to confirm, 5 seconds will knock him out the points. I was looking at the wrong interval, sorry. There is 4 seconds covering the top 11. So if Hamilton were to get a 5-second penalty, it'll drop him, probably behind Bearman, possibly Ocon. So yeah, but you know what my maths, if you're on the streams yesterday, you know what my maths is like live. That was so embarrassing. Anyway,
behind Ocon is the answer.
That'll do. I'll take your word for it. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the battling. There was a little bit of, there were some really nice moves, but then we had to sort of, I guess, endure the overtaking car, then dropping low on energy, and the other car using boost and breezing past on the last straight, which is really frustrating when you see a lovely move around the outside of Brooklands or Luffield or Cops or something like that, and then at the next straight they get breezed past because they've used their energy. That's quite frustrating, but it still in the moment is exciting to watch those overtakes happening. So I enjoyed the battle there with Russell. And did he really fight with Verstappen? There was a fight with Verstappen, wasn't there? Yes, there was, I think.
Yeah, there was a long period where Russell had Verstappen ahead of him and Hamilton behind him, and he kept kind of wavering back and forth. So he was either attacking Verstappen, and then after he needed to kind of conserve a bit after a bit of an attack on Verstappen, he'd fall back and then fall into Hamilton's clutches, and then he'd have to start defending from Hamilton, and he would sort of just go back and forth between them, like, at the most stressful race of Russell's life, I think.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go straight into George then, which probably could have been worded better. But anyway, he came home P2 in the end, so split the Ferraris, which I think given, if you'd have offered him that 30 laps before the end of the race, he'd probably have taken that, wouldn't he? Quite happily, given where he was. But felt an unusual downshift early on lap 10, but was told all was okay, so that was a concern briefly. But then had the battle with Verstappen, got the run on Max on the way to Stowe, and Max made an aggressive block to keep George behind, but I think was just about fair. Then was told on lap 33 he got a slow puncture on the right rear, but didn't pit. I just put here sensor issue ? But then he had to pit in the end because the tyre was punctured, deflating slowly. So that was the point where you sort of thought, well, this is not George's day, is it? It's all falling apart. His teammate looks like he's going to win. He's got a slow puncture. He's got no luck this season. Game over. And then he managed to do some racing and get himself back through the field. And then, of course, obviously Kimi had his problems and managed to snatch second place by not pitting under the late safety car, which... Again, clearly the right call by Mercedes, and I don't want to go back to Ferrari, but I still think they'll regret pitting Lewis with the benefit of hindsight, of course. But yeah, strange race for George. Mixed. I bet he's got mixed emotions. I bet he doesn't know what to do now.
I mean, all in all, I think he'd be pretty happy after all this. He's made inroads on both his presumably championship contenders. Had to deal with a lot, got in some good fights. Yeah, had some bad luck in the middle, but obviously the good luck sort of just floated back towards him again at the end. So I think he'll take this, and I think he'll take this gladly, because it was looking it was looking a whole lot worse before the puncture. All weekend he's looked a bit uncomfortable here. Had that very strange off in qualifying that he was very lucky to come back from Luffield on the outside, a place where people don't normally end up off without hitting someone. Yeah. So, any point in the weekend up to about, I don't know, 4 laps before the end, if you'd said to Russell, would you like second place? He'd say, yes, please, give that to me. Yeah, I also written down sensor issue ? When he first started having the puncture, because he was fast. He wasn't slowing down. He was still attacking Verstappen every time they said, yeah, you've definitely got a puncture. George, you've definitely got a punch. You should come in. And I can only assume, they are very, very confident in their sensors. And we know these cars in dry conditions prefer lower pressures in the tires. So probably for a while it was fine to run on it. But we've also seen Silverstone can result in big bangs in a tire failure. And you don't want that on a high-speed corner. So I don't think Mercedes would have risked that and been like, maybe it's a sensor failure, and then seen Russell go off at Stowe or whatever, or do what Verstappen did. Otherwise, yeah, Russell, take this. I kind of almost want to say he had a decent-ish race if you just ignore Antonelli. If you didn't see the pace of Antonelli, you would have been like, yeah, Russell had a good race. He raced with some world champions. He came second. He did all right, but he is still away behind Antonelli, and I guess that's what's going to gnaw at him between races.
Yeah, it's whichever way you look at it. I mean, he's gained ground on Kimi, but if Kimi doesn't have reliability problems, it looks like he's got, at certain tracks, a very solid edge over his teammate in pace at the moment. So I think, I don't know if there's a bit of George that maybe he's looking forward to summer break, go away, reset or what, but at the same time, he can't really afford to not give it everything between now and the summer break, because he's got to get as many points back as he can. But I do feel like as we sort of move towards Kimi Antonelli, I've got a lot of notes here, I won't read them all, don't worry, but it does feel as we move towards Kimi now that Mercedes seem hell-bent on McLarening their way to losing this championship. I remember 99, Michael Schumacher had his accident at Silverstone, broke his leg, and then everyone said, well, Mick is going to cruise this, and then McLaren just seemed to do everything to try and throw it away. You think 2007 they seemed to do everything to try and throw it away. Even last year they seemed to be doing everything to throw it away, with Max Verstappen closing it like they did. So I sort of think Mercedes maybe tried to do that this year, not deliberately of course, but that's their... It's not a mechanical problem in the sense that it's not a power unit issue or a gearbox issue for Antonelli. It was his, what's it called? I've lost it. Wheel shield that was the problem. But it does seem like they're having more reliability problems and more issues like that than perhaps we'd have seen during their previous era of domination in the early years. So it's quite surprising. But Kimi, again, as we said a few times, looked like he was going to chase down Charles and take that win. He was 10 laps tyre offset, absolutely flying, multiple tenths, sometimes a second out of him a lap, and it just, obviously, to quote Murray Walker, catching is one thing, overtaking is another, but it just felt like there was an inevitability about it, and then all of a sudden, my notes, for some reason, when Kimi Antonelli has a mechanical problem, my notes go to shit. I don't know what it is. I said, Kimi absolutely flying, wait, What? Kimi slows on lap 41. Something broken on the car was the radio message. He said suspension. They pitted him, changed the front wing, as you do when your suspension's got problems. Ted said he saw a broken brake duct on the front. As we now know, that was the wheel shield. Reed joined after the stop, went off track, didn't fix the issue. He said suspension broken. Bono said it was the wheel shield. Then Kimi tried to carry on, seemed determined to get to the end of the race and try and grab a point. He said something fundamentally wrong, but kept going. 9 laps to go, looked unlikely. They boxed him, ripped off the wheel shield. Problem was still there. Aero will have been an issue as well. Rejoined 10th, wanted to try and hang on to it, then started to pull a gap to Colapinto. Safety car out, and Kimi got... Look, rules are rules, but that 5-second track limits penalty is absolute bollocks. I'm sorry. He wasn't doing it to gain an advantage. He was struggling with a damaged car. Some might say maybe he should have pulled over and retired then because he was driving a damaged car, but he was able to get around most of the track, just some corners he couldn't turn enough. So I think that 5-second penalty was... I don't agree with that. In terms of being, well, not being fair, because it is fair, because it is the rules, but, you know, rules are rules, they have to follow them, but I'm just not sure. It doesn't feel right that you're getting penalties for that sort of thing, I guess, is my point.
I tend to agree, and I mean, this has been the case for many, many years now, so at least everyone knows what the rules are, and they've been consistent, but I do think they should allow margin for, you've gone off track for non-competitive reasons, like you haven't gone over the margins trying to like maximize the chicane, you haven't gone wide to maximize your straight line, things like just not if it's normal driving and you go wide, fine, you get a penalty. If your car's breaking down and causing you to go wide, if someone shoves you off and you go wide, I think that should be stricken from the count of times you've gone wide, especially if it's like caused you to lose time anyway. I know that's a lot harder to police because then you have to like review every single time it comes up on the computer that someone's gone wide, but I think it is fairer, and I guess as he took the penalty in a post-race time fashion, there may be scope for Mercedes to argue on his behalf, but there's not precedent for that, I don't think, yet. So I don't know. I would prefer the rule to be kind of like, you know, what you said, what we discussed. I want it to be more fair and to penalize someone who's gained an advantage in some way. Yeah, at the moment, it's a big shame because I think he showed a lot of speed this race. That's very commendable. I think one of the most commendable things he showed today was just the sheer will to keep going on. He was like,
yes,
maybe I can get 1 point. Let's keep going. Maybe I can just get 1 point. I can't steer as well as I can, but there's a chance we can get 1 point. And that's someone who's thinking like a champion. He knows how many races there's, like 12, 15 races ahead. Anything could happen, and 1 point could be the difference. And if he doesn't want to be kicking himself saying, I didn't go for that 1 point when I maybe could have. And I think he was ninth, wasn't he, when he crossed the line before the penalties kicked in? And, that was 2 points that could have been valuable to him. So I really appreciated that. And I don't know. I like the tenacity. I like that he tried. He's warming on me race on race. He's taken leadership of that team, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, even in the race, he was on the radio, wasn't he? He was sort of saying, don't let them undercut me. What are the times? Don't let them catch me. Let's not fall behind anybody. So he's switched on with what he's doing, which is great to see. But just back on the track limits very quickly, I think I tend to feel like, yeah, if somebody gets 3 strikes, maybe then you get noted and the stewards then investigate that and they look at each of the 3 and say, well, that one he was forced off, so that's not really his fault. So we want to give a penalty for that because he's been pushed off track. That one he's cut the corner to gain some time, so yes, that's a strike. That one he's had mechanical problems, that shouldn't count. The problem is somewhere like Austria, let's say Austria pre-gravel strips, that is a lot of work for the stewards to have to work through, and we're going to get a lot of post-race penalties and investigations. So it's maybe it is a case of a hard and fast rule. You go off track 3 times, you're going to get a penalty. But it just didn't seem... again, I don't like using the word fair because it is fair because that's what the rules say and everybody's treated the same in that situation. But yeah, just a right bloody shame for Antonelli today because he was really, again, impressing me as he has all season. I don't think there's many people who aren't unimpressed with Kimi Antonelli this season. A lot of the discourse, I suppose, pre-season, if you remember back to testing, people were like, well, if Mercedes have got the best car here, Russell's going to absolutely muller everybody and cruise this title. And actually, he hasn't. Antonelli's been the better of the two drivers. So I think everyone's been impressed with him this year. But it's yeah, just a shame. He has still got a good lead in the championship, but it's come down the last 2 weekends, so he's probably praying that things don't go wrong in Spa and he can maybe get the win there. But I did miss one thing off on George, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
He made that move on Max right before pitting, returned the favour of running wide at Stowe, and then dived into the pit entry. That was noted by stewards, no further investigation. I think that's fair on both cases. I think there's a difference between running your rival out wide at Stowe and shoving him off bumpy wheels into a gravel trap. I think both George and Max there moves absolutely fine in that situation. It's aggressive, but I don't think there's a big... Neither car ended up retiring because of it, did they? I suppose.
No, I think it was a very Max Verstappen move. Yeah, just aggressive, go wide. And it wasn't... It was on the margins, I'd say. I think that's how I'd say whichever way round it was for them. But yeah, it was certainly a choice considering he was coming into the pits and didn't really need to do that. Because even if he'd overtaken him, he would have done straight in anyway. I was getting a bit concerned because, even how long did he go around with that supposed slow puncher? Like more than a lap.
Yeah,
and
he was still attacking. Laps,
he was still attacking Max, and I was getting worried he'd be up the inside of Max in a fast corner, and that tire would let go and send them both off. It was starting to concern me, and that was the last time I was like, I hope it doesn't go then. But yeah, marginal but aggressive and fair, and I like to see that kind of racing as long as it's on the right side of fair.
Jonty says, I messaged you about that, Sean. By the letter of the law, Max maintained a position by going off track, even though George pitted. It would be very stupid, but rules are rules, right? You're right. It would have been very stupid, and I'd be saying something very different now. Thank you to Sab Mariners fan, who's not from Grimsby, for the super chat. Really appreciate that, mate, and your support as always. Says, okay for discussion time. This could be for later. Says, the amount of fans complaining about the race ending under safety car is insane. You can't complain about Abu Dhabi 2021 and complain about this. There you go. That's what Sab Mariners fan who's not from Grimsby says. If you want to agree, you can do. If you don't want to, then that's also fine. I'm not going to get too much into Abu Dhabi 2021 because it's 2026. Move on. And that goes to the person who left the comment on the preview as well, who felt the need to tell me that Lewis Hamilton is not a 7-time world champion. I sent you that one, didn't I, Stuart? I was like...
You did, yeah.
We're still here. Let's get through McLaren then, because that's the third team. It's taken us 43 minutes to get through the top three because of all the safety car stuff, so this might go quite quickly. Lando Norris, P4 today. So third best team was McLaren in the end. Lando had a lot of wheel spin off the line and lost places. Did manage to keep pace with Hadjar in that first stint after Isack had fallen behind Max after Max had got through, I guess is the better way to put that. Came out behind Hadjar again after his stop, but then passed him again for P6 a couple of laps later. Pitted for mediums under Hulkenberg's virtual safety car on lap 39. I was going to say finished 1.1 seconds off the lead, but that's because it was a safety car, Sean. That's not that impressive. But I think actually Norris today... It always feels very odd saying this the year after somebody wins the World Championship, but I think that's a decent race for Norris. I think he can be happy with P4. McLaren have kind of looked a little bit nowhere this weekend compared to what I expected coming into the British Grand Prix weekend. I thought McLaren might be the biggest threat to Mercedes, but actually they weren't anywhere near that. So I think P4 for Norris is a good result for him, but Oscar Piastri, we'll talk about him in a second, but my word, not good.
Yeah, I think Norris will be happy with this. He and McLaren, I guess, maximised what they could from this weekend. I think partway through the first stint, Zach Brown said, we expect to be fighting with Red Bull, and we hope we have the pace to get past them. And I guess Norris sort of ended up between them, really. You had a Verstappen ahead of him and Hadjar behind him in all the goings on, which I guess is good for them. Them and Red Bull are kind of having a bit of a back and forth. They're not yet positioned to take that fight any further, even though they seem to keep threatening it. Fridays and Saturdays, we might see a little bit of pace from them, but they just don't seem to be able to like be a major threat in the race. But I think Norris had a good run, another sort of slightly lonely run, really, and then benefited from the late safety car at the end to gain an extra place. I guess not even benefited from the safety car, just benefited from Verstappen retiring. Yeah, they'll take the points. They'll keep going. And I guess just happy. I was going to say happy that he got more points than Piastri, but I guess he's not really. I think they're kind of, as a team, they're kind of in this place where they're just trying to do their best, both of them. They're not really fighting amongst themselves. So, yeah, I think we're waiting for some kind of big development from them or something big to happen. That's what that's what they seem to be waiting for. And maybe they can make that next step up and be podium regulars or something, but it's not happened yet.
No, that's a good 12 points when you consider the context of the whole weekend, isn't it, for Norris? So I would have been interested to see what he would have done had we got that last lap restart, though. Would he have taken some risks, given that he's not really in this title fight? He could take more of a risk against Hamilton and Russell than Russell and Hamilton can against each other, with Antonelli falling down. I think I'd have been really intrigued by what Norris would have done, but yeah, I think it's a good result and a decent race from Lando, if not a little bit, I won't say anonymous, because he was sort of on the tail end of other fights, so we did see him and he did have that good battle with Hadjar when he eventually got through. So yeah, not anything epic, but a very good 12 points. Piastri, front wing damage on the first lap. Not sure what happened there. Zach Brown did say on Sky that he thinks was possible contact with Lawson on the opening lap. Now, I did put in my Racing Bulls notes that I saw in the background we did have some Racing Bulls off track on the opening lap, so I wonder if there's been a tangle there between Lawson and Piastri. We never got a replay. I will say this weekend we seem to have had a real lack of replays of incidents. I don't think we got anything in the sprint. I don't think we got a replay of the start in the sprint, did we? I know it was a bit chaotic, but we didn't get a lot of replays. So I will say another moan on TV direction there. He pitted on lap 3 to replace it. Apparently there was other damage as well. Reported on lap 15 he had graining on his tyres, which was a massive concern at the time because he'd only done 11 laps on a set of hards that you would think would go the bulk of the race. So maybe that's an indication of an unbalanced car with damage and things like that have caused that. Or at least made it worse, but still concerning. And he came home in the end. I mean, P12 technically, but promoted after Antonelli got his penalty to P11. Just a thoroughly miserable day for Oscar Piastri. But I tend to feel, Stuart, he must have had some other damage on that car, because even though that McLaren isn't where I thought it would be this weekend, I expected him to make better progress back through the field than he did.
Yeah, similarly. I mean, he lost a lot of time through the damage and then the pit stop and getting back on track. I'm trying to look at the lap chart now. He was about 50 seconds behind the next car up by the time he sort of left the pits. So, and he was going faster than I guess everyone, all the other cars up to Norris, really, but just not fast enough. So just couldn't make the progress. It took him till lap 15 to catch up with the Aston Martins. So tough day for him in a season where he's not shining in the way that he sort of did last season. It's funny, isn't it? Because last season he seemed to be the guy for like the first 2/3 of the season. Like this is our big new guy, and he's just kind of not been there this season, or so it seemed. I am surprised that Norris and Piastri basically have the same amount of points. They're kind of doing as well as each other point wise. It's kind of just thrown me a little bit. I would have said Norris was doing much better, especially as Piastri didn't start 2 races and has now had another retirement. I would have thought they would have been much further apart in points, but not much to say about them. As with Norris, he's still plugging away. TV direction wise, it's kind of just a sharp left turn from where we were last weekend. At Austria, I don't know if I talked about it much on the stream, but more generally, I was sort of like thinking they almost have too many cameras, and the TV direction is a little bit ADHD. They were all over the place. Kind of, they weren't picking camera angles that were that clear in terms of what was happening. We had low cameras and drone cameras and onboards. It was shifting, but there were almost too many angles that they couldn't pick what they wanted to do. Here, you're right. The start, we didn't get a clear replay of what happened between the cars. There were some incidents that happened around Luffield and with Piastri, and we never got to see what went on there. And normally, always with lap one, you have good coverage of the whole field because you know something could happen because everyone's so close that something could happen anywhere. And it just didn't seem to be present this weekend, which is weird. And it's Silverstone, you know, there's plenty of... Did we even have the... It shows how good my memory is in terms of like just remembering something that happened an hour ago that I've been watching all weekend. Did we even have the cool on-wire camera that goes from like across Luffield down to the old pit straight?
No.
Because that's like one of the best cameras of the year, I think, for following battles. I don't remember seeing it, which is, and that would have been a perfect camera to show what happened with Piastri and the Racing Bulls. So yeah, weird, very strange.
Someone suggested they've removed the timing tower from Luffield, so I wonder if that's something to do. They've got nothing to attach it to. I don't know, but it was. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't recall seeing it, at all. There's just some stuff in chat about Hamilton's not got a penalty, but I'm just going to wait for the official FIA document before we get into that. But yeah, that's I agree. Not a lot to say about McLaren. It's not because there's any hate here. It's just they're kind of a bit at the minute. They're quite strange to have an anonymous weekend, and then they'll suddenly turn up and do something amazing like win the Miami Sprint. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
And then they just do nothing again. So I don't know what on earth is going on. But let's come to your comments for the top three teams then. As always, it's a reaction, not a review. We will miss things. If we've missed anything, then apologies. But we're just reacting as fans because we are... well, fans, I guess is why you'd react as fans. I don't know what you... Yeah, anyway. So get your comments and I'll run through a few. We'll do this quite quickly, then we'll have to go through the rest because it's taken 51 minutes to get to this point. So we are... I mean, to be fair, there was a lot to talk about. I've got
so much to say on Haas, so, you know...
Oh, me too.
20 minutes on that, so...
But yeah, top three teams, lots to say today. Plus, we have the safety car stuff at the end and everything else. So Jamie says Sean never misses things. Never lies. Sky are the ones reporting it, so I will wait and see what's said on the official decision document thing. But apparently it is confirmed, so we'll see what happens from there. Red Raven says, damage or not, it sadly fits what I said yesterday about Piastri not being super competitive this year. Norris is the clear number one. That's how it feels anyway. And I think that fits into what Stuart said about how it does feel like Norris has more points than Piastri, but actually they're quite close, like substantially more points. So it does feel like Norris has been the better of the two, but actually the championship table doesn't necessarily say that. But that's an interesting one. Nexora says that the 5-second time penalty completely ruined Hamilton's chances of fighting Leclerc for the victory on pure pace today, or pure race pace. On my feed, they never showed what happened on the first lap, says Kevin. Same here. Jamie says Alvin tangled with Bearman, then corrected it to Albon. I wonder what Simon and Theodore have been up to. Norris would have sent it straight into the gravel pit. I like the guy, but I almost certainly would have taken too much of a risk if we'd had that first lap, that final lap shootout. I'm trying to find something else. Norris. John T. How on earth have I got that mixed up? Says that if it had actually restarted, I am 100% certain we were losing at least 3 cars, probably. It often goes that way, doesn't it? That you get you get a safety car or a VSC or something like that, and then all hell breaks loose and you get another one quite quickly. But yeah, Lance Stroll was the best driver on track this weekend. Sadly, he was driving on a completely different track, says Fudd. I'll read that in a minute, Liam, because we're going to get to Red Bull in just a second, mate. But thank you for that one. Drone would have been cool here as well. They do it for all these filming days, says Kaori. Yeah, good practice around this track with the drone. I think I only saw a top-down drone shot once, and that was in Sprint Quali, possibly. So,
and over the pit lane exit for some reason, not exactly informative.
No, I'm not really sure what was going on this weekend with regards to TV direction, but it wasn't great. Nath says Kimi is absolutely gaining an advantage. He would be much slower to keep it within track limits. That's on the track limits thing. Marta says, I'll be back later, guys, but amazing Sunday. Sat at Cops and loved the overtakes. Audi supremacy points. It was Marta's first Grand Prix this weekend, Stuart. So
great.
Having an amazing time by the sounds of it. So glad that you got down at, where did you go? Cops. You said Cops is a pretty lovely spot, yeah.
Lots of action, people going around the outside, inside and stuff. You get lovely.
I don't agree with the rule, says the safety car, but at the very least, it's been applied consistently. That was kind of my point. It's the same for everybody, so it feels a bit rubbish for Antonelli, but if Hamilton had done that, or Piastri or Lindblad, it would have been 3 strikes and a penalty, so at least it is consistent. So, but yeah, I can see why people worry that you might be able to try and game the system a bit, you know. Oh, I've just cut that corner and gained 2 seconds on my rival, but it's because my brake pedal was long or something like that. You know, people could try and game it, but you'd like to think the FIA would be, you know, alert to that. Although their president was out driving Lego cars today because, you know, how he's trying not to be involved in things. Hadjar saying he has 0 pace after his first pit. And anything else on the top 3 teams? If not, we'll do a shortish Q&A later, and you can throw some questions at us then about those if we've missed them. I can't see anything unless you've spotted anything, Stuart, but I'm sort of scanning through. I will say he's here. I'll be waiting for him to arrive in chat. Craig, my friend. I have to make a retraction, and I owe you an apology. I sat down with my partner last night about the US spelling of things we were discussing yesterday, and you're right. You were absolutely right. The idea that they dropped letters because it was cheaper for advertising is an internet myth, and it's a myth that is so widespread that it is and has been taught in some universities on their courses. So there you go. You were right, Craig. So I apologise, mate. You can have 100 points. There you go. Keep track of your points. But I thought I ought to mention that one before we roll on. We discuss all sorts in watch along, Stuart. It's well, you've done testing, you know what it's like.
Oh, yes.
Let's roll on then to the rest of the field. Let's go to 4th best team today. Red Bull. Isack Hadjar P5 out-qualified Max Verstappen yesterday as well, by the way. Don't forget that. And Max Verstappen obviously crashed out. So we'll start with Hadjar. He looked really racy at the start, Stuart, and was really taking the fight to George Russell. And I thought it was going to be a fun race-long battle, but then Max sort of sent it and got through on him. And then Isack kind of stayed with him for a little while, but then started to fall away and didn't seem to have the pace to keep up with Max, which is nothing new for a Red Bull second driver, is it? But didn't seem to have the pace today. Held Norris at bay through the first stint. Did suffer a slow first pit stop on lap 20. That was 4.3 seconds, so that was quite costly, I think, in the battle with Norris. But even after all the pit stops had been carried out, Norris eventually repassed Hadjar anyway, so I think probably didn't have the pace in the end. Wasn't helped by getting caught behind Bortoletto for a lap and I think a lap at least, but yeah, I think actually a really decent race for Hadjar. He did have a long stop under the virtual safety car at 9.8 seconds, but apparently they were replacing his front wing. I don't know why they're replacing his front wing, because again, back on TV direction, I don't recall seeing a replay as to why. So obviously something's happened to Hadjar, but Isack, I think probably, maybe I'm thinking this because he out-qualified Max Verstappen, but I feel like possibly one of his strongest weekends in that Red Bull. Someone might say in chat it is his strongest, but he felt quick this weekend, and even though he did fall off his teammate in that early stages of the race, he's still done a cracking job to start 5th and finish 5th, as it turns out. But yeah, really impressed with him this season and again this weekend.
Yeah, really strong weekend from him all round, really. I mean, this has been the case the entire season so far, but Red Bull have that second driver that can keep up with Max in a way that matters. Sometimes, you know, he's out-qualified him a couple of times, but generally been within the same pace bracket, picking up points. Not as strong as Max, but that's, you know, to be expected, especially at this point in his career. And interestingly, like, we had that kind of fighting at the end. He fought with George, and then Verstappen got past him into, I think, Farm, one of those new corners. It's like 15 years old. You know, but Hadjar did come back at him into Brooklands, did have a little go at him, like wasn't prepared to let Verstappen just get past and waltz off. So clearly they're allowed to have a little fight, even if I think it's maybe not going to be as sustained as a Mercedes fight or a Ferrari fight, just in terms of the pace they both have. But I'm impressed with him. And here is a prime example of a race, and I know Red Bull aren't currently in the championship and so on, but here's a race where Verstappen couldn't finish, but Hadjar was still there picking up 10 points. You know, there have been seasons where the other Red Bull driver would be in 12th at this point, and Red Bull will have got nothing. But Hadjar's still there. Hadjar's in among it. I think that car has some issues, and it's things that seem to develop over the course of a race more as well. We've seen that. I was saying today with the people I was watching the race with, I think, I know we're not on Verstappen yet, but Verstappen complaining at downshifts is a tale as old as time. I'm wondering if maybe Verstappen doesn't know how a downshift is supposed to feel, and maybe he just maybe everything's fine, because he always has downshifts when everything's going fine. But yeah, Hadjar in particular, yeah, I'm just generally impressed, and I'm going to be interested to see what happens if that Red Bull makes a leap forward and it's time for that team to start fighting for wins again. I'd love to see him have days when he can take the win in that car, because I think he's fighting well and deserves it.
Yeah, Red Bull are going to need him to be on form, because I'm not. I see this change every weekend, but the way the racing was this weekend, and sort of the return of super clipping and all that, and quite an energy starved track, isn't it? So not a surprise, but that, and then obviously his crash as well, which according to Liam in chat says apparently Max's crash was caused by the same rear wing issue that caused his quali crash last time out. Max, who's already considering his future, I mean, he's not going to walk away from this weekend thinking, yeah, I'm definitely staying next year. It's just going to add more fuel to that fire, because of course that decision apparently will come in the summer break, and we've only got 2 left. So it's probably good for Red Bull is what I'm saying, that Hadjar is doing a good job, because if he'd have been another, let's say, fail in that second seat, then they'd be in a right mess if Max walked away. They still would be, because it's Max Verstappen, for God's sake. But I'll read through my Max notes. He overtook Hadjar, like I say. There was that little fight, which was fun. It did cost them both time, though, because Hadjar was right on Russell's rear wing, and then after that move and the little, let's say, squabble, why not, there was a 1.7 gap, so it was quite costly for them in the end, but Max soon closed that up. Did pull away from his teammate, looked good in P5 despite his pre-race concerns. He wanted a new engine and to start from the pit lane, so to be racing in P5 and chasing down Russell, must have been happy with that. Unhappy with the downshifts, as you've already mentioned, Stuart, on lap 11, but the pace was still good. So I do wonder if his issue with downshifts is the same as Lewis Hamilton's Bono, my tyres are gone, because he still seems to have the pace afterwards. He got past Russell after the probably using boost, and Russell running low on energy. Russell then came back on the hanger straight. That was when the block came in, if you like, from Verstappen, which again I think was aggressive and just about fair. Pitted for mediums on the Hulkenberg's VSC on lap 39. Pace was good, and then on lap 48 spun out at Stowe. The car kind of slid a little bit, didn't it? Then he countered that slide, and the car snapped, or I think as Marty Brothers bit into the tarmac, and then, or the asphalt, and then off he went into the gravel trap. But according to Liam there's a lot of talk that's come down to the rear wing issue they had in Austria, where they're whatever, I don't know what the exact wording was for that. Thinking I can't. It's been a week. I've slept since then. If you want to know what happened in the football last night, I'll tell you everything about it. But I can't remember what happened last week. But yeah, no. If it is something to do with that rear wing, then that needs to be worked on rapidly, because that's you don't fancy that coming through Blanchimont at Spa. If I assume they won't. I think it'd be quite ballsy, Stuart, if they go and give us active aero through Blanchimont. But you know my point. You don't want to be going down a long straight like the Kemmel Straight even, and then that going bang then, because that could be quite a nasty accident. So it's mixed emotions for Verstappen's race today. I think he raced well. I think he had good pace, but ultimately let down again by a car that he's clearly, let's say, far from happy with, which could be understatement of the year, possibly. I
think that the upside, I mean, other than the crap, the general upside of where they are today is they're a lot better than where they were when they started this season, when they were nowhere. And he's fighting with the top teams. He's fighting for podiums and front rows on the grid. And he's sort of in a happier place there. He's got something to fight with. Even if the car's probably not where he wants it to be right now, obviously. He wants to be at the front, winning or at least fighting for race wins. One interesting thing I noticed. So during that kind of middle period of the race where there was that small train of Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, it started out with Verstappen versus Russell having a fight, and then Hamilton came up to the back of them, and when we talked about Russell was sort of ping-ponging back between them. But what I found interesting was there was a period there where Russell and Hamilton were fighting quite hard for a couple of laps, and Verstappen didn't pull away from them. Like, I was expecting, once those two started fighting, that's the opportunity for Verstappen to get 2-3 seconds, give himself a bit of a breathing gap, and maybe whoever wins that fight will then come back at him. But he only stayed within about a second of them, despite them fighting, which I found really interesting. I don't think the Red Bull is a powerhouse yet, despite seeming on par with those other two cars in the moment. I think he was doing a much better job on sort of defense than actually having a lot of car to fight with. I think his defending speed was about the same as his racing speed, which was interesting. I think Verstappen is adding a lot at the moment, but the wing thing is an issue, and I know Verstappen will turn in at full throttle no matter what, but turning into a high speed corner, not being 100% confident that your wing's going to be there for you, it can't be a nice feeling. And he got away with a long gravel trap today, but there's not always going to be as much space until he hits a barrier at every track where this might happen. So for safety reasons, they need to get on top of this.
Somewhere like Baku, that could be horrendous.
Yeah, there's no space.
No. I will just say, to your point on Max not pulling away, I don't know how much that would have had to do with the tyres, because I haven't written it down, but if my memory serves, his tyres were quite a bit older than Russell and Hamilton at that stage of the race. I might be wrong. Let me know, chat, as well. Let us know, because I've not got it here. I should have put it in my notes, really, but I feel like he pitted quite early.
Yeah, he had about 6 or 7 more laps, so you're right. Yes, there was a bit of a...
Not huge, but enough to be a thing, I suppose. I think Red Bull, as confusing as McLaren in some ways, but I feel like they seem to have really good weekends, and then again, like McLaren, fall away and then come back, and you think, everyone was talking last weekend about Max and Red Bull being favourites this weekend, and not everyone, a few people telling me that I was a moron, but that's nothing new, really. That's the way it goes. Just before we get to Racing Bulls, I will say thank you, by the way, everybody who's tuning in today. Please do drop a like on the stream if you haven't already, and subscribe if you are new. I'll be back for the Belgian Grand Prix with the preview and all the usual live streams, and of course Hungary as well. And from Belgium onwards, I will be full-time again on YouTube, rather than just the part-timer I've been over the last few months. So lots to come between now and the end of the season, including... possibly an extra race than we expected. Sounds like we might get Bahrain back, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later. So yeah, likes and subs greatly appreciated, and thank you for your continued support. Racing Bulls, I don't have a lot of notes, Stuart, but what a bloody result. P6 for Lawson, P7 for Arvid Lindblad. That could be huge come the end of the season. The only downside is that Audi also scored well, and Alpine picked up a few points, but still, that's a fantastic result. The notes I've got here, I did say earlier, it looked on the first lap like there were some elbows out with the Racing Bulls, with somebody, possibly Piastri, possibly involved in the Bearman Albon one. Not sure what was going on because we never saw a replay, but at least one of the Racing Bulls was off track on lap 1 somewhere. Lindblad, I've just got his, what I thought was quite funny, T-radio. Such a polite British way of putting it. Can you tell him to hurry up, please? On lap 16 yes. About his teammate. Nothing angry or frustrated, just, hurry up, mate. Come on. And Liam Lawson have just got the point about Zach Brown saying that he thinks there may have been contact with Piastri. So possibly true, possibly not. I'll let you come in, Stuart, and I'll just check to see if there's anything from Racing Bulls in my emails.
Yeah, I mean, carrying on from kind of where they've been, they are like this sort of solid fifth best team. I think last race they were eighth and ninth and 10th, picking up the last couple of points. That's kind of where they've been in qualifying as well, just blocking out that last bit of Q3. That, you know, they're doing a good job, and they seem to be running together for most of the race. They did that in Austria as well. Maybe having a little fight about it over the radio, but you know, it particularly today, nothing untoward. And yeah, and if they can keep doing this, then I think they're 1 point behind Alpine at the moment in the championship, but obviously doing a lot better than at them at this phase of the year. Yeah, not a lot of note, which again, we should have more considering they're involved in a scuffle at the beginning on the first lap that we never saw. But yeah, I think they should be very happy with themselves. This is what they need to be doing. The only thing in a wider sense in this race, and I was thinking about it on the grid when I was just reminding myself of the order. If you know you're a Lawson or a Lindblad and you're showing you're doing good pace and you're in a racing bull, but what is your career move from here? Like, you're doing great things, but obviously you're at the whim of like what Red Bull decide to do with their drivers, and they seem pretty happy at the moment. So I'm interested in those drivers and what they expect to happen from being in this team, which is normally designed to be short term.
Yeah, and I'd say as well that I think, obviously based on what we've seen so far this season, anything can happen between now and the end of the year. They might both flop, but based on what we've seen so far this year, I don't think there's any reason, unless something happens at the main team, Max Verstappen, I don't think there's any reason to look elsewhere other than Lawson and Lindblad at the moment for next year. I think they're both doing more than enough to be in that car next year. I think Lindblad will be whatever happens, but I think some talk around Lawson maybe not being there next year, but I think he's doing enough at the moment to keep that seat. So, and 6th place today, I mean, I know helped by the late safety car, Verstappen's retirement, but I mean, come on, I mean, it's still a fantastic result. So I don't see why you'd change that unless something happens at Red Bull. That's the big caveat, isn't it? If Max goes, they're probably going to have to take one of those, because as much as I quite enjoy the Piastri to Red Bull rumours, based on what we're seeing at the moment from Oscar, I'm not sure. His stock might drop a little bit. But I'm hoping this is a blip for Oscar. We'll not get back into that one though. Gabriel Bortoleto, P8 for Audi. Again, cracking result, helped by some of the chaos around him, but still really great to see him pick up. Where's that? 4 points for P8 it is, isn't it? You think after all these years I'd be on top of this point system, but it's not it's not like the old days with 10 points for the win and 1 point for 6th, is it? Thankfully, actually, I will say. My notes for Bortoleto extend to be Bortoleto started 11th, dash where I was going to put some notes and nothing, so hoping Stuart might have something. But Hulkenberg, box full of neutrals at his pit stop, according to Brundle. I love that expression. He needs to release a book, Martin Brundle, of his favourite expressions when he retires. Probably why Antonelli did overtake him in the pit lane, something that happened we didn't see. Hulkenberg pulled over to retire on lap 39, and that caused the VSC. So a mixed bag for Audi. Disappointing for Hulkenberg, who of course finished on the podium here last year. Fantastic result for Bortoleto in P8.
Yes,
my notes.
I don't have a lot more to add, really. They're having an interesting season, Audi, and sort of as I said last week, I'm kind of waiting to see if they're going to show something more that will hint at what we're going to expect over the next few seasons. But they're sort of continuing to kind of salver along, I think. But yeah, good for Bortoleto to get the 3 points for 8th position. I think, and I'm going to say it now, I guess, because it kind of speaks to like quite a few teams at the moment, from Racing Bulls through to Alpine, I guess. I think I spoke a little bit last race, and we've said it before, about how you need to sort of just be there on the cusp of things, just in case something happens ahead. I think last race, Alpine, God, who can remember all of it, but we're just outside of the points, and we were like, yeah, that's a good place to be. Maybe Audi was just outside the point. You know, if anything happened, you're there, you're grabbing points. And this is a race where towards the end, retirements happened, safety cars happened, and you're able to capitalize and get a lot more points than maybe you thought you would. And I think that's that's kind of where you want to be. Maybe Audi aren't in a position where they're going to be regularly fighting for points, but if you're just there and hanging on, something might come to you, and that's kind of what came to them today. Obviously, just for one of their drivers, but it's good to see.
Yeah, because right now we've got that quite a big gap between the top teams and the rest, haven't we? So they almost need something to happen to bank points. So yeah, I agree with that as well. So again, sorry to Audi, sorry to Racing Bulls, sorry to Alpine in a second. It's not that we hate you, it's just that TV Direction don't like you anymore. And I said this to you last week, Stuart. I do wonder if they're becoming overly reliant on that picture-in-picture in the timing tower, because I certainly feel like we're seeing less and less of the midfield teams. But also at the same time, there always seems to be something happening at the sharp end. So I can understand why they're focusing on that. But I don't know. Well, it's just a theory. But yeah, Alpine, Colapinto, 2 points for him. Back on track after a tricky qualifying, where he was literally off track and airborne at one point. That would have been a bumpy ride. Sorry, Franco, I've got no notes on you, but 10th to... up 10 places to ninth place is a pretty damn good race, isn't it? So well done to him, and 2 points. And Pierre Gasly picked up a point. What I've got for Pierre is a 7.5 second first stop, very slow. Looked like it might have been slow on one of the rears because the picture-in-picture was showing, or seemed to show, the fronts were okay and they were all on. So I think there was something at the rear going on with one of the tyres. So that's why Pierre had that 7.5 second stop. But it's double points for Alpine. Colapinto back on form, which is good to see. And yeah, well done, lads and lasses and Flav, I guess.
I'd say phenomenal race for Colapinto. He was up 6 places over the first couple of laps, and then just gained a couple more over his first stint, and then kind of more again by the end. Incredible recovery. We didn't see most of it, unfortunately, and I think Gasly also made up quite a few places actually by the end.
5, yeah.
So yeah, I've got different graphics on my screen, and when I can't change what's on my screen when I'm talking to you because I'm holding down Alt to speak, which maybe was a bad choice of key. But yeah, I think Alpine will be really chuffed with this race. That was a team that was definitely wasn't going to get any points until sort of the last minute shuffle, but were there ready for them. So good for them. And these are important points as well, because as I said, they're only 1 point ahead of Racing Bulls at the moment. And when you're in the back half of the grid, 2 points here, 3 points there are actually incredibly valuable, because that will make all the difference added up. So can't be sniffed at their result today. Not kind of sure where they're headed. They're one of those teams, and we've spoken about this with the midfield teams, where they're in a very different place than they sort of were 4 races ago. Maybe they'll be in a very different place 4 races from now. They're sort of taking turns at being the best of the rest kind of thing. But yeah, I don't have anything really to say because we didn't see much of it. But other than really good Sunday compared to their Saturday, particularly. On the picture-in-picture thing, just briefly while you brought it up, I think you're right. I think they are relying on the picture-in-picture thing too much, which is interesting because they could be using it the other way around. They could choose to focus on the midfield team on the main screen and then just make sure we're not losing track of what's happening at the front with the picture-in-picture, especially as in this kind of drive to survive era where you get a lot of either new fans or old fans, but who are also watching Drive to Survive and actually, learning to love drivers throughout the field, and they may, feel particularly strongly about Colapinto or Gasly or Lawson or whatever, depending on what narratives they've spoken in Drive to Survive. I think you will want to see them and see how they're doing over the season and during the race. You don't want to kind of have them relegated to a small screen. I think people are connecting with drivers in the midfield, and I think you don't have to be a Drive to Survive fan to connect with drivers throughout the field, but I think particularly now those narratives are being elevated in Netflix, and I think it'd be foolish not to follow through on that. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think that's a good point. And I like the idea, particularly if you've got, I don't know, Bearman passing Sainz. To me, that's a more valuable piece of TV and something you need to see than Russell taking another 2/10 out of Charles Leclerc at the front, for argument's sake. Yes, they're close, but nothing's really happening. Russell's just closing in. So let's watch this overtake and leave the picture in picture for the leaders. If then Russell gets a run, then you cut back immediately. But yeah, I tend to agree with that. I'll see what chat's saying. I did see Absolute Kino says Franco had a mega save at the start, otherwise a quiet race. I should have shut my mouth on Hulkenberg. I'll remember that, says Red Raven. Red Raven jinxed Hulkenberg yesterday, talking about a podium. Briefly. Pascal, our resident Audi fan, says Bortoletto was P10 on merit all race. That's a good point. He was there or thereabouts, wasn't he? Pretty much he started 11th, didn't he, Bortoletto? So he was on the fringes of points all weekend in the end. Or the key part of the weekend, the Grand Prix stuff. Key was to get past Sainz early and get away from the Alpines. A bit of luck to help, but good 4 points. Absolutely. Craig's going. See you later, Craig. Have a good night. Says hoping Baxter's doing well. Baxter is fine. He's absolutely fine. He's asleep downstairs sulking because he's not up here, I'd imagine. To be fair, Tsunoda will be a good shout. Familiar with the team and processes. That's from Ash, I assume, talking about the Racing Bull situation or even the Red Bull situation. Solov is tearing up F2. I agree. Keys crew it. So there might be some pressure to get him into F1. Again, I think Max Verstappen holds the key, obviously, to what's happening at Red Bull, but also the driver market full stop. Robot Wars reaction videos coming after Belgium. Absolutely, 100%. I've just found a new channel that's uploading them in really good quality, actually. So I watched the first ever episode Friday, with Jeremy Clarkson as host, if you remember. Back in day.
Don't remember.
That was a while ago. And anything else on the runners? Silverstone track ruined by the regs, says Sema Dragon. I recognise that name. That's a popular opinion based on certain social medias this weekend. IndyCar figured out the outline camera picture-in-picture format. Not sure why FOM struggles with this so much. And I heard Alpine is still suffering from a lack of downforce, says Nilesh. Their new wing didn't fix it, which is a shame. Yeah. A shame to bring an update that didn't work or didn't fix it, but that's why Matt Summerfield always said to me, updates, not upgrades, because you don't know if they're going to work.
Yeah,
I imagine quite a lot of engineering people say that. But yeah, let's fly through the last few teams then, Stuart, and I suspect this won't take too long. Although, I am proud to say I've got some notes on Williams today. What's going on?
Go for it.
Carlos Sainz P12, Alex Albon DNF. That's not the notes, don't worry. Sainz made a really good start, actually. Made it up to P10 in the opening laps. So we're sort of threatening for points, but then kind of lost that pace and fell away a little bit and never really got back to that, but did still end up P12 in the end, which, given where Williams have been at times, certainly last time in Austria, that's a really good way to bounce back. Not points, but better than pulling up on a start-finish straight to retire, I suppose. Lap 29 did get a black and white flag for track limits. Alex Albon, good lord, 10-second time penalty for a collision with Bearman. Absolutely correct call. I know we tend to have a little bit of leniency on the first lap, but he went into Brooklands at turn 6 hot, went straight into Bearman, took out Bearman, who did manage to continue and finished 13th in the end, but still it was a big mistake, and I think he probably, I'll check the quotes in a minute, probably takes full responsibility for that. Just one of those things. Pitted to serve, he was lapped by the leaders on lap 8, by the way, which is, I know he had issues, but ouch. Pitted to serve his penalty on lap 16. And then pitted for a second time on lap 25, but then I realised that it was actually 3 stops he made by lap 25, and one of those stops, not for the penalty, was a 13-second stop according to the graphic. So I did wonder if Williams were testing a few things, but given that Alex Albon pitted 5 times and then pitted again to retire, that suggests they were using the race as a bit of a test session, because I don't think his tyre management is that bad, Alex Albon. So yeah, scruffy race, but although I'm not suggesting he runs into Bearman every weekend, it does feel a little bit like that all sums up Alex Albon's season so far. Just not really clicking for him at all, is it, for one reason or another? And then compounds the issue by having a first lap accident and getting a big penalty.
Yep. I mean, You said it all, really. Definitely turned into a test session. I mean, I'm seeing that he's 6 pit stops or whatever. It's all still a bit lost, isn't it? And Williams, one of those teams that wasn't quite able to get themselves onto the cusp of something, even with all the retirements and penalties ahead of them. They not even into the points and finished behind Piastri, who was 50 seconds behind the entire field on that one, and still managed to get back up ahead of them, with an extra pit stop than Sainz as well. Just, I don't know. I mean, I don't have too much to say about Williams, but just a sort of miserable old time. But they did do it in a very shiny and distinctive British Grand Prix livery.
Yes.
Which we all loved watching. Shone out from all the other cars. What an experience that was. So at least they got one thing right.
I think I said in my preview, I'm going to file that under why did you even waste your time? I mean, what? I don't even know what that was. I mean, I got the press release. I was like, oh, this could be good. Because we've seen in the past, haven't we, the Union flag on the back of the engine cover, and they've done some different liveries. And then I saw that and I was like, are you sure? Are you sure you've done something here? And then McLaren release theirs, and you go, and Cadillac, and you go, no, that's a special livery. Even if people don't like it, it's still a special livery. Come on, Williams, not acceptable. Yeah, very. Well, they did it, and thankfully, you couldn't really notice a change, and you never saw it anyway, so it doesn't really matter outside of lap one, does it? So, but yeah, again, I think Sainz can be content. With 12th place, if not completely thrilled. Alex Albon, I was going to check his notes, wasn't I? Alex says, unfortunately, we had a bad start and made a mistake on lap one that resulted in front wing damage, so we had to pit early. After that, we were caught in blue flag chain and weren't able to catch up to the pack. So we pivoted and used the rest of the race as a testing session to gather more data on the front wing upgrade or update we bought this weekend. Test session seems to sum up our season so far. So I was just saying, there you go. But we're focused on gathering so much data and understanding as we can, so that when we bring upgrades, I think they missed a word there, later in the season, we'll be in a better position. Carlos Sainz just said the weekend was much more difficult than we had anticipated and hoped for. Need to focus on what's wrong with the car and also analyse why the update hasn't delivered as expected. So if that's correct in chat about the Alpine front wing and Williams there saying about their update, a bit of a mixed weekend for updates by the sound of it. Haas, sorry, Haas fans. Bearman started 13th, and I'll read what I've got here. See Albon notes for lap 1 incident. He came 13th, and Ocon was there and was 14th. Ocon up 3 places. Yes, we had 3 retirements, but one of those was behind him, so he's gained a place somewhere. I'm trying to think of something to say about Haas, but other than just they existed.
I kind of forgot about them. I just we didn't see them. They were definitely there. And we had that incident at the beginning with Albon and Bearman, but not really much to say right now, is there? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I'm interested in the fall off they've kind of had, since because they started off kind of okay, but just don't seem to be able to develop at the rate of the other teams, which is a shame. But I think possibly the most anonymous team this weekend.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I mean, Bearman was hit by Albon, so you think there must have been even minor damage. There must have been some kind of impact on his car from that contact, and still beat his teammate. So you could argue that's actually probably a pretty good race for Bearman, all things considered. But 13th and 14th doesn't feel like a great race, does it? But again, we're talking. I'm still thinking back to right at the start of the season when they looked like the 5th best team, and now they are, as you say, pretty anonymous, which is a shame. But yeah, sorry, Haas, nothing to say, but we love you really. That's the truth. There you go. Cadillac, I've got even fewer notes for them than I had for Haas, unbelievably. Perez 15th, Bottas 17th. Shall I say, for the 9th race reaction in a row, the most important thing for Cadillac is getting to the end of the race, and if things happen, they might pick up a point or a good result. Basically what they did today. But I think, for me, the big win for Cadillac is that their brakes made it to the end of the race.
Yes,
or past lap 4.
And, of course, they remain faster than Aston Martin. They've
Yeah.
come in, they're not the slowest team in the grid. That might change later in the season, but for now, yeah, I think, as I think I said last week, they're in their grace period. You give, turning up, delivering the laps, finishing the race. I think, as you say, big win. We don't expect them to come in and get points, but there were a couple of times this weekend where actually they were doing quite well. I think sprint qualifying or qualifying, they had an okay Q3. Obviously didn't get out of Q3, but kind of they looked a little bit like they were threatening the top end of the Q3 sometimes. Not Q3, Q1. I always confuse Q3 and Q1. The first qualifying where they get eliminated, they looked a little less like they're obviously going to be eliminated. They put a bit more into it. So we could see a little bit of progress if you look at qualifying. But yeah, big win today is brake issue. Okay.
I think you're right. Perez wasn't far off Q2 in. I think it was sprint quali. He wasn't far off. So that's a big step. But as someone's just said in chat, I mean, if we want to do this tongue-in-cheek, Bottas was only 8.1 seconds off the win. That's a huge step for Cadillac in the end. And last, and very much least, there's no other way to put it, Aston Martin, despite the safety car, were still both one lap down. Oh, Jesus. Alonso stopped on a formation lap. So actually, to be fair, getting to the end is a massive win for him today because it looked like his race was over. Managed to get going again. Pitted and obviously started the race from there because I think once you fall behind, you either have to go in the pits or start from the back anyway. So he pitted and then went on from there. So pretty decent actually for Alonso when you put it that way. Lance Stroll last 19th. Grid penalty after taking new power unit elements, so he started right at the back. Lap 31, black and white flag for track limits. 5-second penalty for track limits, ruined his race. Investigated for 5th offence and was given another 5-second time penalty, and then investigated for a 6th offence and another 5-second time penalty. As somebody said right at the start of the stream there, Lance Stroll the best car on track, but unfortunately he was driving a different track to everybody else by the look of it. So I mean, pick that apart, but a bit of a ridiculous situation there for Stroll. But again, I'll say it, the lap cars were allowed to overtake everybody else on the lead lap except for Aston Martin, still a lap down.
Yeah, not great, is it? At risk of repeating myself, I don't think we saw any of the Stroll incidents in replay or anything. So I can't say what Stroll was doing off track 8 times. I don't know if he was having issues. I don't know if he was falling asleep. I don't know if he just didn't care anymore. One thing stood out to me this weekend, and there was a press conference. I think there were several press conferences with the drivers, and obviously they asked them about the Lego cars quite a lot, and there was some, not controversy, but some discussion around that, about some of the drivers felt more roped into it than not. And they asked Lance Stroll, "Oh, how do you feel about the Lego race in the drivers' parade?" And he went, "I don't think about it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to wake up excited about it. It's just a thing," with his kind of evil Stroll beard on, and then just put the microphone down. Like, he's barely present anymore. It's really weird. And I suppose finishing last and driving off track 8 times makes sense, but it's certainly not helping Aston Martin make progress or develop.
No. And based on what you've just said about the Lego race, I go back to the point I keep making. I'm not convinced Lance Stroll wants to be in that seat anymore. I feel like he's there because his dad wants him to be there, because he just does not look happy. But then I wouldn't be happy driving that Aston Martin around a track, but I suppose it would have been nice for him to get his hands on a good car. I guess, with the Lego. But yeah, not a very sloppy one. I saw somebody said in chat, he got a further 5-second penalty post-race, did Lance Stroll, according to FUD, but I can't find any document on there, and I've still not got an official document about Lewis Hamilton. So at the moment, he is still officially under investigation, but not sure what's going on there. So we'll keep an eye on that shortly. But yeah, between now and the end of the stream, but yeah, pretty miserable from Lance Stroll today, this season. for a while now, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess as you mentioned it, thoughts on the Lego race, Stuart? Did you enjoy it?
I didn't see it. I saw some clips, but I have yet to actually see it properly because I didn't realize it was on as early as it was. So I'm going to watch it. I saw that most of them seemed to beach themselves in the gravel almost immediately. That's the gist I got from it. It's a bit of fun. I can understand why some drivers feel a bit perturbed about it. I think it might be Max Verstappen that framed it this way, but the idea that they're not sort of performing clowns for F1, they are actually professional racing drivers, and he would prefer not for them to make them do so many sort of clownish, entertaining things. They're not sort of there to do that. I do understand that, even if part of me is like, oh, lighten up, it's just a bit of fun. I can understand why that's not your job. And I can also understand, despite the fact that most of them are like multi-millionaires, that if you're not being paid to do a sort of promotional activity, that's a little bit dodgy. Even if you don't need the money, it's still some other big corporation making money off your whatever labor image. In a strict labor sense, you're just making someone do work for your company for no money. So I can kind of understand that. It's sort of within the framework of it's the formation lap, and the formation lap is something they have to do. So they're kind of being a bit flexible with how they define a formation lap. But yeah, I mean, my kind of bottom gut feeling is lighten up, just drive a Lego car around. Lewis Hamilton, I saw, drove around just looking at his phone the whole time, as far as I understood. So, just do that. But I do understand the argument from the drivers who are a bit nonplussed by the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit of fun, so enjoy it. But I do also kind of take a stance that we did it in Miami last year, and it was great fun. And sometimes it's okay to do things that are fun once and not milk them. I kind of feel like maybe you could have done something different, like, I don't know, a Stickle Bricks car race. I don't know, something like that could have been interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know, we've done it once, so you sort of first time you're like, oh, this is brilliant. Second time you're like, oh yeah, and by the third time you're going, for God's sake. But we had the cool little, I don't know what the cars were called, the little cars we had in Brazil last year. They did a little racing for the drivers' parade. Could we have something similar to that for Silverstone? Send them all around in minis.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
I don't know, but it's not something I got really angry about either way. It's enjoy it, have fun, but also let's try something else now. I've done Lego. Let's try a Play-Doh car race or something. I don't know, but I get the sponsor thing as well, but maybe F1 are going to pay them in exposure. I don't know. Got to be in the limelight and constantly intruding in driver spaces. Meanwhile, got Stefano out here doing his dirty work defending the regs. MBS is responsible for, says Kaori. MBS being involved. I don't know why Mohammed Ben Sulayem had to be evil uncle about it and turn up, but he did. I don't know. It felt a bit like he's driving around. He's like, friends. Ooh, friends.
It was a bit dodgy, wasn't it? It's a bit sad.
Especially for a man that is insistent he's not going to be at the forefront anymore and wants to take a step back from being in the forefront and stands on every podium, gets involved in the Lego races, turns up to shake drivers' hands and give them a cuddle and ruffle their hair and pour water on them, Creepy. If you've got... I said, hang on, wait, Sean, take a step back. Driver of the day first. We have to do that, of course. Stuart, who was your driver of the day? Chat, get your DOTD in the chat, and I'll do some shout outs and read them out. But what have you? I'll let you go first this week, Stuart. I stole yours last week and I copped out.
I mean, so I've kind of got two in mind, and I think one of them is a stealing yours one. Oh no, I got three actually. You know what? Do I do my wild card third one?
Oh, I love a wild card.
You know what? And I'm not sure how strongly I feel about this as being the actual drive of the day, but I kind of almost want to give it to Antonelli just for like his pure tenacity. Like, it seemed like he had the pace to win the race. He seemed like he had a measure of the race as a whole, and then fighting on despite things going wrong was. It gave me a lot of respect for him. I'm kind of tempted to give it. Let's do that. Wild card, last minute, change my mind. Let's do that. What's yours?
Controversial. Mine's really predictable and completely boring, but I don't care. It's Chuck Leclerc. It's Charles Leclerc. I can't not give it to him. I think, yeah, all right, fine. Antonelli may have got him in the end, but I think absolutely faultless drive. Controlled the race nicely in that first stint. Great, of course, that Hamilton kept Antonelli behind him, but I still think Leclerc had good pace today. He probably would have ended up second and would have got my driver of the day, whatever happened, because I think he was just that good today. So, Charles Leclerc. But, I mean, shout-outs to, I think Hadjar was good today. I think, I'd say Russell, but a little bit disappointed, given... It's difficult to give Russell driver of the day because we saw Antonelli's pace, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's difficult. I think Lawson and Lindblad were great. I think Stroll was fantastic. Bortoletto's a nod as well, but it's got to be Charles Leclerc for me, 100%. So I'll come to it in a second in chat. We have got the Lewis Hamilton document through. Brace yourself. It is an infringement. Breach of Article B184A of the FIA F1 sporting regulations. The old B184A.
We all know it.
Yeah, we
don't even need to read it out. We all know it.
Got a poster of it. But the decision is a driver reprimand for driving. So the first reprimand of the season. Hamilton entered the relevant sector before any yellow flag or yellow light panel was displayed, with no such indication present before turn 9. The first light panel encountered after turn 9 was displaying green immediately before 10. The yellow indication on the steering wheel display only appeared once the driver was already on the straight towards turn 10 and close to the end of the yellow flag zone. I'll pick that apart. The evidence shows that there was no yellow light panel warning within the driver's immediate field of vision, and that the yellow indication on the steering wheel display remained visible for only a very short period of time. The stewards were therefore satisfied that the time available for the driver to react to the yellow flag indication was very limited. They also accepted that immediately prior to entering the sector, Hamilton had been involved in an overtake manoeuvre with Verstappen, and that the driver was expecting a counter attack. As a result, his attention remained directed to his mirrors for most of the straight towards turn 10, rather than immediately towards the green light panel at the end of the sector. They took into account when considering whether this visibility of the green light panel should itself have been made clear to the driver that he was still within a yellow flag zone. I have to say, I agree with that first paragraph about the evidence of the light panel, but I'm not quite sure I agree with, well, the driver wasn't looking at the tracks, he was looking at the mirrors, is really a defence. But I guess they've decided it is.
I mean, so you're reading all that out, and like, okay, yeah, sure. He, the zone he was in didn't go yellow until he was already in it. The only panel he saw was green. He got a very brief, yellow flag warning on his steering wheel, but it was so brief he might not have seen it. He was defending his position at the same time. Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, makes sense. So I don't get what the reprimand is for. They're kind of basically saying yeah, it makes sense that you wouldn't have slowed down because you're already past it. You didn't see it, and you barely got to see an indication that it was yellow. It seems weird, but still reprimand. Either you should have seen the yellow or you shouldn't. I don't understand.
There is more. There's another page.
Oh, God. Carry on then. Sorry.
No, I didn't realise. I was sort of scrolling. I can't see the names. I was like, oh, there's more. So, to answer your question, Stuart, well, I hope to answer your question. I've not read it yet. This could be dreadful.
Let's find
out. The stewards nevertheless determined that after the yellow had been displayed on the steering wheel display and the green light panel was illuminated immediately before turn 10, Hamilton did not make a discernible reduction of speed and therefore did not fully comply with the requirements applicable under a single yellow flag. In determining the penalty, the stewards took into account that Hamilton had entered the sector before the yellow was shown, that the yellow indication reached the driver only when he was already near the end of the sector, that the time had distance available to react were very limited, or time and distance, and that the driver's attention had, for understandable reasons, been occupied by the immediately preceding battle with another car. In those circumstances, the stewards considered that a reprimand was the appropriate penalty. Now, I've not seen it, so I can't sit here and say I think that should be a penalty or it shouldn't, but to me, whilst the words make sense, I'm not really sure the reasoning makes sense, because what they've done is they've kind of come in and said, oh no, it's not his fault, he's done nothing wrong, but also because he did nothing wrong and didn't lift off, even though we've said that we understand why he didn't lift off, we're going to give him a reprimand. I know a reprimand's when you've only got one, it's not the end of the world, but it seems a little bit I mean, the reason for them not giving a penalty, from the evidence we have here, fair enough. But then they've made excuses, and then they've effectively said we understand why he didn't slow, and that it wouldn't have been possible necessarily to slow, and he wasn't in much time left in that sector because he was almost at the end of it. But still, he should have. I don't.
Yeah, if they'd have been a sentence saying we still expected him to slow down a little bit, like, this is what we expect from a driver, then I would have been like, okay, reprimand. But they seem to just have made excuses for him and said it's basically fine what he did. So it seems weird to give him a reprimand. I don't really understand, but sure, fine, whatever. Did he get any penalty points, or was it just like a slap?
Just a decision, driver, reprimand, bracket, driving, close bracket. Sure. I agree.
Sure.
I mean, I think Fud sort of sums up quite nicely in chat, says that's a fair decision. His attention was divided was a bit much, but the yellow came on very late. He didn't lift off, should have, but didn't have much chance to do so. I think that's probably a nice little summary there. Ignore the rest of it about looking in his mirrors at Verstappen. Yeah, sure, but no penalty. He keeps P3.
Yeah, I think I generally understand the point. If you see a yellow, if you see a green flag or a green flag light board, that should indicate to you that you're in a yellow now. I get that part. So maybe they're sort of very roundabout way of saying that's if he saw the green. Once he saw the green, maybe he should have slowed down a little bit there. I think maybe, but yeah, I kind of get it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. It just seems a bit weird.
It's a weird explanation, but like Fud summarised it there, so Fud is in charge of that now. So I'll run through drivers of the day now. Liam says Leclerc for driver of the day. Professional Moron says Leclerc all the way. Nick says Verstappen. Golf Ball says Mailander because he almost won the race. Yeah. If he hadn't had to pit on the last lap, Moray says Lawson. Red Raven says Leclerc in control. Enough said. Stewie says Lindblad. I don't think that's a bad shout. I would rank maybe one or two above that, but I still think P7 today. I would say if you're giving Lindblad a nod, you've got to give Lawson one as well. But yeah, I think Lindblad's fair, Stewie. Ash says Lindblad or Lawson for solid results. Pascal says driver of the day Leclerc, honourable mention for Bortoletto. Jamie says I'm giving it to Kimi. He didn't win, but he won the respect of many. There you go. That's sort of what you said, wasn't it, Stuart, I suppose?
Yeah.
Kevin says Chuck has to be driver of the day. Kaori says driver of the day is Charles. Max for Fud as well. Lawson driver of the day for Richie. Kevin says Kimi gets runner up for not being a crybaby and trying to get a single point. I like his tenacity. There we go. Anybody else? Liam says the B184A is their road at Northamptonshire. It does feel a bit like that, yeah. Who else has got their driver of the day? And let's see if I've missed anyone. I apologise. The chat's now jumping up all over the place. I'll get you super chat in a second. Golf Balls, don't worry, mate. I've spotted it. But I think that's everybody I can see. If I've missed it, pop it in again when we get to Q&A. It'll be a brief Q&A today, but yeah. Golf Balls, there we go. Thank you very much, mate, for your super chats. I predicted both Alpines finish in the preview. You did indeed. So in the points in the preview, yes. So there we go. Thank you very much, mate, for your continued support as always. But yeah, I got there in the end. I was scrolling through multiple things in chat there. We got there. CP says Hadjar or Leclerc for driver of the day. And Blackhawk says Lawson. I can't really think of anything that he did wrong unless I missed it. It depends if we believe Zach Brown or not. That's the question. But yeah, get your questions in chat or comments. Anything we've missed you want us to cover. We'll stay live for a few minutes. We won't be going too long now because I want to go and have some dinner and then have a nap before the 1 a.m. England game, which is going to be thrilling. I've just fallen asleep halfway through. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. Lots to come over the rest of this season. And, of course, leave a like on the stream as well. That'd be massively appreciated. Helps in the old algorithm. I did see people talking earlier in the chat about the football, so I will just say the game last night, Paraguay-France, was some of the worst refereeing I've ever seen in football. So, and that's good for someone who watches the Premier League, and you know what our referees are like. So, what did you think of the refereeing last night, Stuart?
Oh yeah, it was a real card fest.
Yeah, it wasn't. That was the problem.
should have booked him or her.
There you go. Sorry, I put you on the spot with the football. That's awful. But
I'm aware of some things. I know that England are playing in Mexico City, and everyone's mad about it because they're not used to the altitude.
Well,
there you go. I know some things.
There you go. I mean, Mexico City's been there a while. They could have, done some preparation for it. But, yeah, we'll get away from the football. We did a lot of random chat in the streams yesterday. So, same problem in Austria. The double yellow should have been immediately put on, says Kevin. Yeah, that was a big debate after that, wasn't it? It wasn't great. I'll let you get your questions in just to sort of pick up what we talked about last Sunday, Stuart, on the Bahrain rescheduling and the drum I've been beating since the races were postponed back in April, that it looks like they are going to try and slot Bahrain in between Baku and Singapore. Stefano Domenicali telling Sky that they were determined or trying their best to get one of the cancelled races or postponed races in before the end of the season. Sky sources saying that it's the gap between Azerbaijan and Singapore is where they're looking to slot Bahrain. So I assume they're picking Bahrain over Saudi because Bahrain was technically the first one to be postponed because it was the first race on the calendar this year out of the two, maybe. But, yeah, it sounds like they're going to give it everything and that they're going to make a decision. I think he said before the summer break, but that could still mean early August because the summer break is usually a couple of weeks after Hungary, or a full week after at least. So they're going to make a decision on Abu Dhabi, Qatar and Bahrain before the summer break. So we can stop the speculation soon, hopefully. But it's let's pretend everything's fine in the Middle East for 3 seconds. But slotting Bahrain in there, that's a manic end to the season, isn't it? When you think about it, non-stop, really.
That's a lot of work for a lot of people. I know it's only one extra race, but you're sort of turning a 2-week period of time into 3 races. So you got back to back to back to back to back. I'm looking, and then you get a little break before Vegas, and then back to back. So, and also around the world, not just in a cute little bunch of European countries. It's sort of, yeah, it's a lot of work. And I mean, it's also quite a lot to ask from fans as well. Like, it does get kind of exhausting to kind of, I think we've spoken about it before. Like, if you're just someone who watches it, if you're not even involved professionally or whatever, or even like maybe you're a content creator or something, you're sort of somewhat involved. F1 does ask you to give up a bit of your weekend regularly, where you could be seeing friends and doing stuff, and asking you to do that. What is it, 9 times in 11 weeks or something like that? It is a lot. I mean, small beans compared to what you're asking of the teams and stuff like that, but in the media. But and we are trying to slot in a race that still isn't 100% certain of whether it's in an area that's able to host a race still.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, making a decision before the summer break, I guess they've got to logistically, but ultimately everything might be fine until the week before, and then something might happen, and then all of a sudden that race isn't viable anymore, and you've already got any freight that you need that isn't there already on its way, and you then got to mess around with the calendar again and cancel it. It just, I guess, if we ignore the commercial aspect, the easiest thing to do is to just say, for 2026, no race in the Middle East. Let's not take any risks. We'll see how things are next year. However, Abu Dhabi pay a fortune to be on the calendar and to be the final race. Qatar pay a fortune to be on the calendar. Bahrain, Saudi pay a fortune. There's no way F1 are going to pass up that money or compensate that money. So they're going to do everything they can. I still wouldn't be at all surprised if Abu Dhabi got pushed back a week and Saudi got slotted in between that and Qatar, and we ended up with 4 at the end of the season, to be honest. But yeah, I will say of the 2 races, Bahrain and Saudi, I'm glad they've picked Bahrain because I do quite enjoy that track for racing.
Yeah, me too. I prefer them to pick Bahrain. I was actually going to say, like, I think logistically, and I know it's sort of you're going into like having to change contracts and logistics and things, but shoving Abu Dhabi on a week, so it's 2 weeks after Qatar, and then shoving Bahrain into that slot, ignoring trying to get Saudi in there as well. If you put it there instead of after Azerbaijan, that makes a lot more sense, because so you're adding an extra week into that period. You've got a 2-week break after Vegas to get to Qatar, and then Qatar, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, very close together. Maybe not logistically, but they're in the same area. You could probably even, truck between them. Not that they have all the trucks there, but it's a lot simpler to shove it in there. Moving Abu Dhabi, moving their time slot is probably a big headache for contracts and promoters and like people who've bought tickets and all that kind of stuff. So maybe they're probably not going to be able to do that. But I think logistically, that makes more sense to me.
I might be wrong. I'm trying to find a calendar, but isn't Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi a triple header anyway? So if you push Abu Dhabi back a week, you've got a quadruple header at the end of the season if you slot Bahrain or Saudi in there.
Oh yeah, you're right. I was misreading where the 2-week gap is. But
that's a brutal way to end the season, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why the 2-week gap isn't before you go to the Middle East after. We've been years and years and years. We've never understood why they arrange the calendar in the way they do, but here we are.
Well, I'm gonna bang the drum again. United States, Mexico, and Brazil is a triple header. Why don't we do United States, Mexico, week off, Brazil, Vegas, week off, Qatar, Abu Dhabi? Does that not make way more sense?
It makes too much sense.
But yeah, no, I we'll see what happens. But obviously, again, ignoring commercial side of things, don't bother. But I know financially, there's no way they're going to say no. I will say, and I don't want to get into geopolitics, the usual caveat, we're talking about our little F1 bubble. Of course, we want it to end peacefully and everything to be sorted there. We'll make that point. But I think if we went to Bahrain and something did happen similar to what we had in Saudi a few years ago with that attack, I think immediately F1 would call that off and go, because that could escalate far worse, couldn't it? But I say that, I thought they'd walk away from that weekend and they didn't. So there you go. I mean, money talks, doesn't it, at the end of the day? But anyway, we'll see what happens. But of the 2 races, from a purely racy point of view, Bahrain over Saudi every day of the week. So although I tell you what, Baku and then Saudi and then Singapore, you've got 2 super quick street tracks, and then you've got one tight, twisty, grueling one to finish it all off in Singapore. That's a hell of a 3 weeks, isn't it? Goodness me,
we could make that happen.
It'd be thrilling, wouldn't it? But yeah, it just doesn't make any sense, the calendar, to me, full stop. Waiting for somebody like Kevin from Canada to tell me why they can't just stick Miami and Canada back to back, but there you go. Contracts, I suppose. Chat, questions, that's what we're going to do. Sorry, got off one there. Thank you to Cadenza, member for 4 months. Says, I just finished the race, and as an unbiased Hamilton Fossey, or Ham Fossey, that's a new one on me, I think we should abolish safety cars. Yeah, I think Hamilton fans, again, probably not very happy with safety cars today. That is for sure. I have a good idea, says Kevin. Add Sochi. Yeah. If you like. Yeah, could do. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, they have their reasons why we're not there, and understandable reasons why we're not there, but I'm pretty sure if they paid a bit more money, then F1 would make an exception again. I can see one of the major F1 executives acting just like the gold robot from Futurama, eating grapes in boardrooms, says CPB. I've never seen Futurama, so I have no idea.
You've never seen Futurama?
I've never seen Futurama.
I think that's called his hedonist bot, is who that guy is.
Okay, I will take your word for it. What if teams and drivers refuse to go because they don't trust it is safe enough, says Stewie. I mean, certain drivers were quite clear they wanted to leave after Saudi, didn't they? A couple of years ago, and they were basically pulled into line, and I'm not going to get into it. There are a lot of rumours at the time about higher ups in Saudi stepping in and making things clear that they couldn't leave, and then that led to other rumours which were ridiculous. But yeah, let's.
Sidestepping controversial aspects of all of that, I think because it's at the end of the calendar, I think drivers would be less inclined to miss a race if it was on the table, because the championship tables make it very aware of what's at stake, and maybe if you're behind in whatever title battle you're in, you might be like, well, I need this extra race, I need more chances to make up points, I can't give up on a race if they're offering it. I think there'd be less protest at the end of the calendar than at the beginning, where I think Saudi was when all that kicked off the first time, I want to say. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was at the end.
Certainly later in the season, wasn't it? Because no, go on, Stuart. Sorry.
I mean, I was just reiterating myself, but that's generally my thoughts on how I think it might play out.
I was just going to say, we had that weird season where Saudi was the penultimate race of one year and then the second race of the next year, wasn't it? They were quite close together, but it was something like that. But that might be, I can't remember which year. I say it every week. The years just merged together in F1.
That does happen sometimes. That's happened with Japan, and that's happened with China as well, when they've shuffled things around that way.
No, Australia, they did Adelaide end of 95, didn't they? And then Albert Park start of 96. So we have back-to-back Australia, so which isn't a bad thing. Let's move on from contract talk, not contract, calendar talk, and on to contract talk. Nick says Max's contract apparently says he's free to leave if not in the top two by the summer break. He now can't mathematically make it into the top two by the summer break. That is, again, not something we're going to too deeply today, but that is something that everyone's sort of hanging on now, aren't they? They're waiting to see what Max does, because that will trigger. I think that's why we're not seeing much movement. We've got Leclerc's contract, talk of George Russell apparently activating his 1-year extension. There's question marks around Ocon, but everything else seems relatively quiet, and I think everyone is just waiting to see what Max does first, because although it's unrealistic for Cadillac to land him, for example, every team is going to knock on his door and say, oh, hi, I hear you're leaving Red Bull this year, are you interested? And they'll find room for him if they can. He's one of those drivers, isn't he? A Hamilton, a Verstappen. You go back to the days of Schumacher and Senna and drivers like that. They become available. You try and sign them, even if you have no chance. You've got to ask the question. So I think everyone's waiting to see what happens with Max Verstappen's contract before it all. But I think it'll all kick off in the summer break. I've just got a gut feeling.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because the number one team who've been seemingly flirting with him are McLaren. I don't think it's a secret that they sort of just had a couple of little talks with his management. Zach Brown says he's very happy with his current lineup, but sort of spoke about, how good Verstappen was, and obviously it'd be great if he could race for McLaren. Norris even said in a press conference that, he doesn't mind who he races with, that if Max is in the car next year, that'd be very exciting for him. Kind of, it was almost a little bit dismissive of Piastri. It was an interesting tone he had. He said he races very well with Piastri, but he'd be very happy with whoever was in the car with him next year. You're right. If Verstappen was on the table, you'd take him. It does come with the flip side of how disruptive that could be. And if you are McLaren and you have quite a good relationship with your drivers, particularly Norris, I think Norris is the golden boy in that team. Do you disrupt that? Because I feel like you tend to just center your whole operation around Max. I don't think Ferrari are going to be taking him anytime soon, but any of these teams, I suppose particularly McLaren, do you disrupt the order of things like that for some short-term gains? Because as I'm certain, he's not in it for the long term. He's not going to Alonso his way through his career. So it's interesting the choice you might make.
I saw something in chat that made me think. Sorry, it's Morris is Alonso in Red Bull for just 1 year. if Max goes. Please, please, please. I think Murray quite fancies that. I mean, I there's part of me that would quite like to see an Alonso Verstappen swap, Alonso to Red Bull and Verstappen to Aston Martin, because as much as I don't want to be cruel to Fernando because he's had enough, there's a part of me that would be really intrigued to see Red Bull driving around at the back and Aston Martin in the midfield, because Fernando and his jinx and destroys Red Bull when he turns up there. It all falls apart completely. That's horrible to Fernando, I know, but you could just bet on it, couldn't you? Fernando goes to Red Bull, it all falls apart. Verstappen goes to Aston Martin, suddenly they're world beaters. But that's not a totally serious comment, but it's kind of the way Alonso's career seems to have gone. Pascal says midfield battle is heating up after today. Alpine 60 points, Racing Bulls 59 points, Haas 21 points, Williams 11 points, and Audi 6 points. How do you think this will finish? Obviously very early days, but I think based on the here and now, it's obviously Racing Bulls versus Alpine for P5, isn't it? And I think right now I'd maybe lean more towards Racing Bulls taking that, but it's going to depend on development. But that battle behind Haas, Williams, and Audi, I'm going to be honest, Pascal, I'm a little taken back. If you'd have asked me how many points Audi had, I would have said more than 6, because I don't think they've been that bad this year. But apparently only 6 points on the board, Stuart, for Audi. Yet we've got 11 for Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I was just about to say that, and I was about to say, I can't believe Williams have got so many points. I know it's only 11, but it just felt like they've sort of not picked up as points as regularly as they actually have. They've picked up points on 5 occasions, if I'm reading this correctly, which is fascinating. I see improvements from Audi coming. Haas could go either way. They could continue to drop down the order. I don't see Williams picking up the pace anytime soon. So I'm kind of intrigued as to how far Audi can make their way up if they do develop the car and bring something for the rest of the season. I think I agree with you that Racing Bulls seem... I'm about to say something that would easily be proven wrong. I was going to say dead on for 5th. They just seem to have the momentum with them right now. Things are working well. I think generally the Red Bull pair of teams figured out the issues that they were having early on, and so they're sort of in a better place than they were. And like I say, yeah, Haas could find something and turn it around, and then suddenly be in the points constantly every single race in the second half of the season, and then be challenging Alpine. So I don't know. Yeah, it's not as tight as it was in the last couple of years, where that battle for kind of 5th, 6th, 7th was really, really tight. But things could happen in the next half of the season. Are we halfway through yet? Not quite. Not even slightly.
No.
Yeah. It's trickier because the missing races have confused me. So we're actually not as far through as it feels like we should be. But yeah, there's a lot on the table.
I think now you've said that, that's race 9 today. So that's 10 and 11 Spa and Hungary. I think this year, for the first time in forever, if the calendar stays as it is, the summer break is actually the midpoint of the season, isn't it? That'd be 11,
wow.
11 for 22 divided. Yeah. Nice. I like that. Finally. I know chat have already answered, but I'll give a shout out to Ice Kuno, who says, did Lewis get a penalty? He did not get a penalty, no. No penalty for Hamilton. He got a reprimand, which was explained really well, then explained really weirdly, and then drew a conclusion that I think we all got. But yeah, FIA being FIA, but no penalty for Lewis Hamilton. And last one today then, from Black Hawk So says, after seeing the cars at a high power, low braking track, how bad do we think the clipping will be at Monza this year? They will be clipping before they are a third of the way around the track. And I'll extend that question ever so slightly further, Black Hawk So. How's it going to be at Spa? That's another question. So the Monza thing, I mean, it's not a lot of braking at Monza, is the first chicane, second chicane, and then it's sort of not really heavy braking for the rest of the lap. There's little bits of braking, but it is quite a flat out, track, isn't it? I mean, it is the Temple of Speed, so that's not a surprise.
Yeah, it's something we've all been thinking about. It definitely has the lowest sort of regen settings for the whole season, so they can only clip so much because the batteries they're only allowed to recharge so much. I haven't seen the regen levels for Spa, but yeah, I mean, if you look at which is coming up, if you think about the track, it's basically flat out from turn 1, La Source, all the way up Eau Rouge and Radion down to the chicane, whose name I've forgotten. You have a bit of a twisty bit in the middle, but then you have the massive flat out once again for like a mile or so to the bus stop chicane at the end of the track. So the middle sector, bit more wiggly, bit of recharge, but it is basically flat out sector 1, flat out sector 3 Spa. So yeah, it'll be. I mean, the run from La Source down to God, what's the name of the chicane that's past that they break into after that big long run? That is ripe for overtaking. Normally, there are normally like different speeds coming out of Eau Rouge and Radion. Anyway, so it's going to be interesting to seeing if they sort of when they run out of energy down that run, and again down the run down to the bus stop. That's going to be really interesting. I wonder if here and at Monza we're going to see. I say here, Belgium and at Monza, we're going to see teams take different approaches, because the interesting thing we saw at Silverstone, other than the fact that the clipping wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be, we did see some yo-yoing. We did see some teams like managing energy in different ways, but it wasn't like sticking out like a sore thumb like it was at the beginning of the season. But we did see teams approaching it with different strategies. I think the most obvious thing that was clear through the sprint and in the race was that Mercedes, I think we saw it more through Antonelli, were conserving energy in the first half of the lap. And then once they got past the old pit straight through Copse, then they were deploying energy through Maggots Beckett's down the hangar straight into Stowe. That's when we saw Kimi suddenly have a lot more to play with and be able to like catch up with the cars he was racing with and ultimately overtake them in some cases. So yeah, I'd be interested to see if teams have split strategies about how they deploy and how they charge at Monza, because it didn't go all the same way in Silverstone.
I checked. Chat I've got there as well. Les Combes is the chicane. I couldn't think. You said it. I was like, oh, it's what is it? It just would not come to me then. But yeah. So you think? Yeah, I think Spa. I don't think Silverstone was as bad as I feared. And I don't think it was as bad as the drivers feared in the end, was it? So yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah, I think Spa might be even better, but I'm not. I know there'll be a lot of people getting really frustrated with seeing a return of super clipping, even if it's not as bad as it was in, say, Suzuka or Australia, for example. But I'm not going to get on my high horse and start throwing my toys at my pram about it, because that's the first time it's even been mentioned since Suzuka. So clearly the tweaks pre-Miami did something for a lot of tracks to improve it, and maybe those tweaks have played a part this weekend, that it's not been as bad as people feared. But I'm sure there'll be people like Kevin in chat who will still tell me it was the worst thing he's ever witnessed in his life. And I did say one more, but I'm going to throw this one out there because I think this is a very good question for golf balls to round off today. At Monza, who will they come out for, the red cars or their homeboy championship leader? Oh, it could be a very good weekend for Italians, couldn't it? Very good weekend.
Indeed, that's a good question. I mean, knowing the Italians, they Ferrari is in their blood, but I imagine they'd be super happy to see Antonelli win. Nonetheless, God, I think they'd be happier if Ferrari won, but I think they'll still be happy to see Antonelli take him. I mean, it's been a long time since a Italian driver's even threatened a championship, right? So yeah. I'm going to see it. We didn't get Imola this year, so we didn't get a taste of it before Monza about where the Italians were. We saw them very happy for Toro Rosso winning in Monza, the little baby Italian team in 2008. So I think they'll lean towards Ferrari. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Ferrari now, but maybe in 5 years' time, if Kimi's got a couple of championships under his belt by that point and he's a bit more established and he's got more fans over there, maybe they'll lean more that way. But I think Monza's always been Ferrari, hasn't it? So I say 5 years' time. Who's to say in 5 years' time, fingers crossed, Kimi Antonelli won't be at Ferrari? Oh, don't.
It would be amazing.
That would be fantastic.
We'd have to shave some Parmesan over him. That's how Italian that would be.
I love that. We'll leave it there, though, Stuart. We've overrun. I mean, obviously. Can we call it overrunning anymore, really? We've run to... Yeah, whatever we do. But really appreciate the last 2 weekends and every weekend that you pop on for the race reaction. It's great to talk to you, and hopefully we'll have a cracking Spa in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm going to say it, but it feels unbelievable. 2 more races till the summer break.
Yeah, that feels weird in a way that I don't know if it's too early, too late. It's very... Because of those 2 missing races, it does still feel like slightly early in the season. But we are in July. I don't know. Sure. I mean, I think we probably need a break by that point. But yeah, looking forward to it. We'll see. I mean, it's too early for Belgium as well. Belgium should be the first race after the summer break.
Agreed.
So I'm still getting used to Belgium being in July. I guess that's to avoid the monsoon season of Belgium that we normally get, I guess.
Yes, it never rains any other time of the year at Spa.
Never.
It's a fact. But yes, thank you very much, Stuart. I'll let you go. Enjoy your evening, and I'm sure you're staying up for the football tonight, so enjoy that one. Grab a Carling and put your England shirt on. Really get into it. And I'm sure I'll talk to you at some point, if not later this evening, this coming week.
Thanks so much. Lovely to chat with you. I will see you in another race. Goodbye.
Yes, see you soon. Bye. I love that there always has to be a face pulling at the end. I'm going to leave that on there just for me because that's brilliant. Yes, thank you very much to Stuart and to you guys as well for tuning in. Absolute pleasure as always. Pleasure as always. Thank you for your votes in the poll as well. Rate the 2026 British Grand Prix. 38% of you say good. 24% say okay. Great is 19 and bad is 19, so thank you very much everybody for your votes on that one. If you haven't already, please do drop a like on the stream and subscribe if you are new. I will be back, if not this coming week, then certainly for Belgium, for the Belgian Grand Prix preview. And of course, we'll be live for qualifying and the race reaction as well. And as I keep teasing, from the Belgian Grand Prix onwards, I will be back to full-time YouTube. So you'll start to get videos and streams in between race weekends, and we won't have these big-ish, it's only a week, but big-ish gaps between content. So thank you for your patience, as always, whilst I've been getting everything off the ground here. And I was going to say getting my affairs in order, but that sounds like I'm either about to pop my clogs or end up in prison, but you know what I mean. Thank you for letting me get things sorted and get everything under control here, and looking forward to getting into garage gossip and news videos and talking nonsense and speculation and ranting and raving on live streams with John T. Can't wait. So yeah, likes and subs greatly appreciated. Thank you for your support so far in 2026. Looking forward to Spa. I always look forward to Spa. Enjoy it though, because I think it's back next year. Then it gets a year off, doesn't it? Because it's in rotation, because fuck them. Apparently it still annoys me. But anyway, let's not end on a negative. Enjoy the football tonight if you're staying up. And hopefully you'll get a better game than the last few England games to enjoy. And good luck to Norway. I've got a sneaking suspicion they might do quite well today. But anyway, thank you for watching. I've been Formula Sean. And until next time, goodbye.